What is? Oh,
All right.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
All right. We're all ready. We're going to get this. All right.
hold on.
Mike stands fucked.
You are one of us.
Oh.
Your passion is the world of mountain biking, from enduro to gravel races and everything in between. This is Insider MTB, the podcast that takes you behind the handlebars, into the dirt, and behind the scenes of the mountain biking world. And now your host, Austin White.
No pressure. No pressure. All right, you guys.
Was that fucked up on everybody else's side? Or is that
We're a
Your
mess.
passion is the world of mountain biking.
We're a mess. All right. Okay.
Bam, let's do a live podcast and see what
let's do a
happens.
live podcast. We got this. All right, everyone. Welcome to the Insider MTB podcast. As I'm totally messing up over here, James, he's got a beer in his hand, and Spencer Rathkamp knows what he's doing every minute of the day. So, yep. And this is episode 6. We're trying something a little bit new. We are live on YouTube. Why we do this one? We record them live anyways, so why not just let it flow on YouTube this time for us? Along with that, we're doing this one as a US Cup special. This is kind of the big kickoff for all US athletes to get their XC points to go over to Europe and race. So, yeah, we got a bunch of the top ones coming on. We have the race promoter from the weekend. And yeah, kind of getting Jamesy into a little bit of XC racing since it's not his forte. Spencer, old XC racer,
I'm definitely excited.
But yeah,
I also feel like you need to put me on that thing where put me on the thing where it records it later. You know what I mean?
yeah, I know what you mean, James.
Yeah, fuck, I love it. Okay, sick.
Jamesy.
I'm excited about the cross country. That's the last thing I heard was something about cross country, and I was like, yeah, no, I'm excited to learn more. I just filled out a review at work and my new corporate job and everything, and I said that I need to learn more about cross country and cross country racing. So why not do it here with everybody else?
No pressure.
I really don't like how orange this light is either.
Jamesy comes straight from the bar here.
Continue.
Ready to go. Already a beer
It's
in
not that.
hand. 8:05. Ready to send it. Give us his best performance. As Spencer's like the total opposite. Training for Sea Otter. Ready to go. Tip-top athlete over here.
Just got done with a bike ride. Literally, just took my chamois off, and we're sitting down here. Two different worlds, but that's why we're here, right?
I love it.
That's why you got.
It was a taqueria. It wasn't a bar. It's different.
Spencer, you were
Either
supposed to
end of
go
the
to the US Cup, right?
Correct. Yeah,
over the weekend.
I was planning on racing, and then some stuff kind of occurred with some work situations, and I got to make that money right now, man. Unfortunately, bikes don't pay the bills entirely. So,
but what was the reason for you going to do the US Cup in the first place?
Whoa, dude, we're letting out all my secrets. No, I'm just trying to return to my roots a little bit. When I first got into mountain biking, I got into it thanks to cross country and thanks to the high school mountain bike league, and that was what I knew for my first like 4 or 5 years of racing bikes. So I'm trying to race a little more cross country, a little more road, a little more cyclocross, a little more everything, and enduro this year. And then I'm sure you guys saw there's a new specialized bike that came out that is pretty capable. It's a XC platform bike that can descend and be pretty capable. So we're gonna go try to see if we can just kill ourselves and bury my own self into the ground by racing everything you possibly can at Sea Otter on one bike. So.
Well, hey, I got a question on that one. Like, I was at dinner with a buddy, and we were talking about the Epic. Is it now just the Epic 8, or is it Epic 8 Evo?
So there's Epic 8. They're just calling it Epic 8 for the 8th iteration of it in its current form. And the same exact frame is used on the Epic Evo as well. So there's no real differentiating factors on the frame except for a little bit of a linkage thing. I believe, I could be wrong there.
It's always been that way though, a little bit, right?
Kind of, and kind of not. Now it's like literally identical. They got rid of the brain, they got rid of some stuff, they put in-frame storage. It's like literally the same exact thing now, which is super sick. So I'm just calling it Epic Evo. I'm not calling it Epic 8 Evo or Epic Evo 8. I'm just calling it Epic Evo, but.
And you're going to go race downhill, enduro, cross country,
and slalom.
Slalom. Oh, that'll be good.
On one bike. And I'm not going out there trying to win by any means, but maybe I gotta, I don't know. We'll see. I'm
With
trying
that
to
attitude, you sure as shit aren't going to win shit.
No pressure.
Trying to get as fit as I can and ready for it. But yeah, I was supposed to go race with
have fun with your fairy books.
We got Jamesy on the best. You know, like you have to slot out time with this guy. He has got a full-time job now. He's entertaining guests and he's at different places all the time, just lugging this podcast stuff around for us.
I mean, well, all joking aside, yeah, I find myself in my my roommate's house, so I'm kind of stoked on that. And then just trying to find a place to set up the microphone.
Hold on, roommate's house. Explain that. If it's
my
your
house,
roommate, but it's your house.
Yeah, well, it's not my house; it's her
You live
place,
there?
but I live there. So it's like I'm looking for my future ex-wife. And it's kind of like let's just throw a couple of other things. Anywho, so getting set up, and then not much more to it than that. When's our first guest coming in?
All right, Ty's here. Actually, we let him in right now.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, cool. All right, look at this. He's got the bike set up in the background. Ty just hopping in. Uh-oh. What's going on?
I didn't know you let me into the convo, man.
Just wasn't ready.
Oh, dude, there's no heads up around here.
No
It's a
heads
complete
up.
shit show.
I was
always.
texting
We're
a friend of
professional.
mine. I'm in the room. This is
We are fully professional here, okay? At Insider MTB, I have the highest level of standards for podcast and live streams.
Obviously.
Yeah, obviously. All right, you guys. Our first guest up tonight is Ty Kady of the US Cup. I've been giving you the name as director of it, but maybe what's the best title for you, Ty?
I don't even know these days, man. Just I guess race director.
Race director. Okay. All right.
Janitor.
Cool. Janitor. The guy who puts up the post and then takes down the post.
everything.
Yeah,
Right?
everything. I don't know.
Oh, he's probably got an internet connection like mine.
Yeah, look at that. Internet. He does.
Yeah, what's going on with all the...
We got to get him some better internet over there. Are you on a budget, I'm guessing? You just got to cut it back?
Am. Everything I'm doing on's on a budget these days.
All right, Ty. So
That's the
talk
bike
to
industry.
us. Yeah, about
You nailed it, James. 100%.
All right, cool, Ty. So let's dig into a little bit about the US Cup. A few of us were trying to wonder. You're the owner of this series now, but it's been going since, is it 2012? What'd you say, Jamesy, you had?
2009 is what I looked up.
Yeah, no. We started in 2009 when the old National Mountain Bike Series went under. So we kind of tried to take that over with Show Air. So yeah, I guess 2009 is kind of when we took over. But really in 2019, Show Air says we're out. We've done enough for the sport. Why don't you take it over? And then I took it over, and then COVID hit. So
Perfect time to buy a series.
Perfect timing. Vail gets shut down. I owed people a bunch of money, and I'm like, all right, yeah, good call. So that's kind of my story. And then we kind of survived that, and then revamped it, and then kind of trying to push this thing over the goal line.
Yeah, and so basically, maybe explain it a little bit to some of the people around here. This is probably the highest US race that these riders can go to collect their points to go over to Europe, and how important some of that type of stuff is that we have these races in the US for XC racers.
Yeah, I mean basically what sorry, there's so much echo going on in here, man. I'm sorry. It's bad. It's amateur hour in here. We are. I mean sadly, I hate to admit it, we're two of the junior XCO series. We're the only oars category, or HC, in North America. So I've got a C1 in Vail with the junior XCO, and the importance of that is it gives 25 points for those young kids to try to get some points to head over to Europe or get a better start line on at nationals. And then the oars categories is just below a World Cup, and basically a country's US nationals. I think it offers maybe 90 points or something. So a lot of stuff up for grabs for those top riders. So yeah, man, we're kind of the big deal here in the States.
It's pretty cool. What's up, Ty? It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a minute, Spencer. How are you, man?
I'm doing great, man. This is coming full circle here a little bit, but I got into mountain biking in my first race that wasn't a high school race that I ever went to was a US Cup race, and I raced it as a Cat 2 dude at Benelli Park, and that kind of put me on this whole track of cycling, and it's been kind of crazy. And I met Ty, and I've known Ty since those days. So probably, I think 2011 is when I started riding bikes and raced throughout with the shower guys a little bit and with Ty and stuff, and got to know him super well and followed the series, followed it around, and then it's kind of changed as I kind of went away from racing it, and it's cool to see. I mean, COVID was kind of almost was trying to be the nail in the coffin per se, but it's kind of, I've noticed it more again, and people seem to be more hyped up to go to these races. And what does it consist of now? Because most of the races were all in California, I think, back in the day. Or
it was yeah. No, that's funny, Spencer, because I still remember. I think you came down when you were chasing that cross country kind of dream. We rode some Chino Hills, didn't we?
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. So back in the day, it was Benelli and Fontana were kind of the main venues, right? And that was all sponsored by Show Air and stuff. After the COVID thing, I'd been consulting with the Walton Group out in Fayetteville to design a course. And I basically called him and said, hey, look, California's shut down. I've took some sponsorship money and some have let me have it, but they're like, hey, you got to do a rerun in 2021. Some wanted their money back. I'm like, what if we move this thing to Arkansas? I'm not attached here. And they're like, bring it on out. And that's what we did. Cause I mean, I'm basically trying to just honor my commitments, right? I don't want to renege on anything I've done. And that was just a weird situation. I don't think anyone could have predicted that. What people don't know is you pay the UCI for up front, you pay the park fees up front, you don't get that back. You don't get a gimme. So, but I'm all about honoring my commitments. And so that's how that whole thing, we'd already designed a course out there in Fayetteville, and it's like, well, let's go take the US Cup. And so I got a couple years under my belt to get stabilized. And then I started thinking about, okay, can I get people to help me? Because everyone's like, come back to California. It's like, how? It costs a lot of money, and I lost my ass on that one.
Yep.
But some people rallied around me. Julia at Violet Farms and the Trek Bear team got a hold of me. John at Orange Seal, some people rallied around me, and it's like, okay, let's do this thing. And kind of started small, and now we're kind of building and putting two together. And Steven talks about maybe even making it 3 in 2025. So
that's super cool. Yeah, it seems like the Bentonville or Fayetteville one seems to be pretty well attended and stuff, and it gets people out there and around. And they tie it in, or you guys tie it in with the little bike festival as well, right?
Yeah, no, I think the Bentonville Bike Festival is going to be maybe a May or something, but they got so much going on out there. It's unbelievable.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. Oh, well, that's super cool.
So I just Adam, because I don't know my ass from my elbow about much of anything, to be honest. But with regards to these races, how many participants can you kind of, between California and then Arkansas, what are you expecting as racers out there?
You're probably going to get anywhere between 500 to 800 unique individuals, right? And then you're going to probably get, at a given race in Fayetteville, I think we got 1,500 race starts, which means you got a Wednesday XCO, you got a Friday short track, you got another cross country, you got amateur. I mean, it's pretty good.
Holy shit.
But yeah. But I was actually having dinner with the people that ran Norba, the old Team Big Bear. We're having a few beers Sunday, celebrating. No rain. We got it off. 1,500 unique individuals back in the day. 1,500 unique people plus short track. So they're just hand over fist. I maybe if I get 500 to 600, 700, unique people, that's a big deal these days. So it's a third. Yeah. It's a third of the glory days, man.
And then how can we get that back? Because I know.
Yeah. Why do you think it's that way?
I mean, it's definitely an uphill battle per se, but over the hump. I'm sure if you guys are familiar with it, but it's a local Tuesday night race series here in Orange County, and the first one gets 800 people out, and it's like parking lot racing. I love those guys, and I love everything they've done, and it's great and a great opportunity. But it's to be on a real course, to be I heard everyone was praising the course this week. So good job on that and stuff. And we got to figure out how to get 1,500 people at the biggest North American races every time.
Yeah, the over the hump, Spencer, right, is like the wide part of the funnel.
For sure, absolutely.
You could have cut off shorts, flat pedals, and a Walmart bike.
Yep.
Right, and then the clowns like me that are still into racing, and then the sharper end.
Absolutely.
I think the U.S. Cup scares people because it's U.S. Pro Cup, it's UCI, so they're like, man, Blevins is there, Riley's there, Haley's there, Kate's there. Like that's not for like they feel like it's Anaheim Stadium.
Yeah.
They're like, no, we got a whole amateur element. Like, come on in. We got a whole amateur day. And I just think it kind of scares people away. The courses are a little tougher. You know what I mean? Like over the humps, like we've raced it. It's fun. It's like a dirt crit. It's an hour. You pay your $40 and you're done. We ask a little bit more because I think we're giving a little bit more, and we're offering, points for the USAC kids that are trying to get that start position in nationals. We're offering UCI points. We've got a guaranteed payout. Like we're just kind of like I don't want to say a step up, but we are, right? And so I think we only cater to kind of the elite hardcore, you know what I mean? And it's that's where we lose out a little bit because I don't know that everyone comes in like, right, we're not going to get Austin out there. He's over it. He's like,
hey, we got a good e-bike veteran class.
But that guy also isn't going to be in an over the hump race. Let me tell you.
Yeah, that is very fucking true.
So I don't know. Yeah, that's something. I mean, if there's a will, man, there's a way. And what can we do to make this more appealing to people who are maybe not in that smaller portion of the funnel? Well, I want to see that guy in jean shorts and on a Walmart bike at a US Cup, because at the end of the day, I was writing filling out some answers or questions for this guy for some magazine the other day, and he was asking about what bike should people ride when they're getting into the sport, and what I kept kind of coming back to was, at the end of the day, the right tool is the one that you can ride, the one that you can get on. So, I mean, I started my first US Cup race. We talked about this in another podcast. My first US Cup race was on a $900 Cannondale, and to some, $900 big expenditure. And I understand, but at the same time, like, you can buy, I'm sure the bike that you're racing, Ty, is like $10,000 bike or somewhere around that. So at the end of the day, those jean shorts people can be out here ripping too and enjoying themselves and having just as much fun as the Chris Blevins is or so on and so forth. But we got to figure out, I mean, this is more rhetorical, I think, than anything, but how to get those people on.
We appreciate that, Spencer.
Now, Ty, we're kind of asking you a little bit, like, what do you think is a better direction for the sport? I mean, since they were getting that many at Norba, what could drive more towards now, and stuff like that? You seem to be on the ground front.
Man, I feel like I feel like it's almost like someone asking us to recreate Woodstock, right? I think it's a moment in time. I think there's a cultural, political thing. I mean, like, we don't have the legends like Tomac. I was just talking to Haley this weekend. It's like, dude, she's gnarly. She's sending doubles. Like, she's doing what the dudes are doing. And it's super impressive. And no one even knows. And I get it. I even talked to her. She's like, well, I like low key. And we like that lifestyle. But it's like, no one knows about the sport. And unless you're in it, it's hard to appreciate, because you compare it to what? Supercross, Formula One. It's like, I'll be honest, it's like watching paint dry. Unless you're into it, you're like, oh, like, what am I watching here, right? People come by, 15 minutes later come by. But if you're someone like me that appreciates it, like, I look at Haley, Kate, Sevilla, Gwen, I'm like, man, they have really elevated, the women have really elevated the sport. Men have too. And I mean, I don't think the general population appreciates that. You know what I mean? We need a triple backflip. We need people on fire, MMA, like, you know what I mean by that? Like, it's the attention span so short with people that I don't know that it translates well to spectating.
Yeah. I think it would take something like, it's kind of like having a personality of like Sean Palmer, but in today's age, where you've got like cameras on your phone and everything like that, where people can really, but then that takes away a little bit of the beauty of back in those days, where it was just like a lot of the adventures were never documented. They were talked about at the bar, but they were never documented. But I think that that's something back then. And then I don't know why this is the case, but I saw a little snip in. It was somebody talking to Lopes about one of his bikes, and it still had the number plate on, and it was from like 96, 98. And I think one of the sponsors on it was like Mercedes, and then the other one, and it's just gone from me, but it was a big bloody like a Bud Light or something, right?
Yeah.
And it was those days of like having that much money into it. And I guess times are different now with regards to social media and all that kind of thing. And but it like the personalities we have great personalities, but it also comes with that fact that everything's documented now as well. And I think that this is only a really small portion I'm talking about with regards to like making the whole cycling industry fun to watch and stuff, because that's what they do with the Formula One. Yeah, there's the drama, there's the speed and stuff, but they are like on track, but they build it off track as well with these documentaries and that kind of stuff, right? And the following of that. And I think that in the mountain bike industry, we just don't quite have the budgets to be able to put together some of those like kind of documentaries that really bury into these people. And then also kind of we've got to all be a little bit, not that we need to be on better behavior, but it's also like, oh, our sponsors can see this or our clients can see this if we have too many beers at the bar and maybe the pants are around the ankles and we're dancing on a table, right? You know, like that kind of stuff is, and kind of rightly so to some extent, frowned upon nowadays or whatnot. But anyway, that's my kind of take on it. Like, that's what I remember about the day, what I feel like the days that you're talking about, where there was that, the Big Bear, the Norba days, like Grundig Money, all that kind of stuff, Mercedes-Benz, all that, you know. And I know Mercedes is still on, like, in Europe and everything, but yeah, we just don't see it in the US.
What 100%. Like, I was talking to the people that ran Norba this weekend, and they're talking about naked crits coming out at 9 at night, snowshoe, people coming out with their cars, and you're talking like Marla Streb. I mean, you're talking the elites of the time. Just a different. We'd never do that nowadays, right?
Yeah.
And then,
It's a different
people
world.
throwing down. You had Giovi, you had Palmer, you had Carter, you had all those personalities. And I think with the Olympics, things get a little more torqued down, where it's a little more like professional. You know what I mean? But the average fan wants to get in on something that's relatable. You know what I mean? And so it's kind of a balance. Yeah. Do we get more professional, go to the Olympics, or do we like kind of also have a social aspect? And I think that social aspect's disappeared.
Yeah.
Which
Like
the big thing that's kind of left the sport.
Yeah, for sure. And I would kind of almost combat what James was saying. Like, if you look at the UFC, for instance, that's like one of the biggest sports, I think, at least in the United States. And it's all full of entertainers, basically all personalities, just talking shit, doing the pants on the ankles kind of type, you know, just BS. And it's selling the sport and selling the fights, and it's driving all sorts of attraction towards them. I'm not saying that we need to see it much of that, but I don't know. I think the more.
Oh, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not saying that I'm anti that. I do, like, that is the side of mountain biking that I fondly remember, and I still relate to some extent. I think what I'm saying is that it's more I think with the MMA crowd, there's a different kind of
for sure
expectation of the athletes. Is that a fair way of saying that? Like, I feel like the MMA is definitely got a lot of following. It's got a lot of money getting put into it, which is rad for any kind of sport, and the kind of following that the MMA has. It's insane. I just feel like in the mountain bike world, are we a little bit more sensitive? Are we a little bit more? I'm asking the question. I'm like,
we are though. We're a different breed than I think ever. I'm not saying, but all of us, it seems like we are a little bit of a different breed than what an MMA crowd is, or a supercross crowd is, or a monster truck crowd is. And I kind of like that. I mean, I came from some of those crowds, and I'll tell you, like, they aren't also the smartest of people. They might have a great TV coverage package, but like, I mean, Ty, we've tried to work to have TV at the races, right? You've spent your own hard-earned money. I've spent my money to try to help it. I think you
don't even get me started, dude. I had the where's the live stream? I just reply to people. You complain that we charged you $14.99 for 3 days. Like, you can't win. It's like everyone's used to Red Bull coverage for free, and it's like, we're not working with Red Bull budget. We want to bring you coverage, but we have to help cover this cost at this point until this thing gets enough momentum. And so we're kind of at that moment again, you know, guys, where like we're trying to get the critical mass where it starts picking up, grabbing sponsors. We can increase budget, we can increase production. But like right now, I feel like I'm just trying to push this thing past the goal line just to like provide for Chris and the Kates and the Haleys and the Sevilias that are like, need those points and stuff. And then I'm also, this new generation's got me stoked, right? Like the level has gone up. Like when I watch that 17 to 18 or U23 races, like the kids are shredding. Like it's 10 years ago, I could beat any junior on the planet because there's only 8 of them. They're like ripping nowadays. They're like, I don't even want anything to do with them. They're so good. And that's great. That's what we want. Right. And so, yeah, we're just kind of in a pivotal time. And, you know, Austin and I were talking offline, like, you know, the governing body needs to get their act together. I mean, they did a national in the same weekend as ours. And like when I talked to them, and we're supposed to have more conversations in my mind, and Spencer, you'll get this. And that's like having Anaheim 1 Saturday night, round 2 on Sunday in Atlanta. Well, dude, Vince Freeze, Alex Ray, and Chisholm, they're going to Atlanta. They don't want nothing to do with Jet and Tomac and Cooper. So you just divide the whole sport, and you got guys cherry picking, and you don't have the best of the best. And that's what they did to this national series they created. So when I heard about it, I'm like, all right, screw that. I'm going to create my own 4-round series. 2 of them are mine, which are, you know, going to be Vail, which happened. Then we're going to Fayetteville. Then I partnered with a guy in Wisconsin, and then we're going to finish in Missoula. It's perfect. It's like March, April, May, June. The kids can get there, get their points, get out of school, and go to nationals. And I'm just literally trying to create a proof of concept. Like, hey, we need to create a calendar that has a flow where everyone can get to, that's within a budget, instead of this stepping. Like, I don't know what it is with this sport, but they just step all over each other. It's and that's another problem. We're just stepping all over each other. And the pie to begin with of cyclists cross country is niche anyways in here. I mean, there's not a lot. And so when you start just cutting each other up, your turnout's horrible. And that's how right now I make my money, right? Is on entry fees. I don't have those big sponsorship dollars right now.
And it seems so basic, like we could solve this problem by like USA Cycling or UCI, whoever. A few phone calls, like, hey man, don't schedule on the same weekend. These are extremely important, you know, events that these riders need, like Blevins and Haley. And
I've sent them bullet points, right? Because I don't want to complain. So instead of that, I go, here's my solutions. I mean, I've copied like the Loretta Lynn's regional feeders areas, which you do, right, Austin? Right?
Yep.
Yeah. They look at that and they're just like deer in headlights. Why would we do that? It's like, because it's a working model. I don't know. You know what I mean? So,
well, hopefully they're watching this podcast right now. I'm sure USA Cycling is logged on and they are ready to make changes right now.
And we're actually supposed to get in some conversation. So I'm not calling anyone out, but I've been through 4 CEOs, about 5 or 6 national directors. There's a high turnover there, and I get it. But it's not rocket science, man. It totally isn't. There's working models out there. Like, how do we make this better and grow this thing back to where it was, you know? And so I'm definitely willing to raise my hand, but I'm also I'm getting to a point too, where it's like, okay, I can't sit there biting my fingernails. Like, is it going to rain? Are we going to cancel? Am I going to be out of money? Cause that's not a cool position to try to make a living either. So
it's crazy. I mean, you've been supporting the sport for a long time, right?
Yeah.
But you're also having to make a living at a certain point. Like, people have a weird, you know, like feeling on promoters, and like maybe they're greedy or something, what it is. But it's like, I'm also, to be fully in, this is kind of part of the living, but like, it's a weird area to be in. As a former promoter myself, like I can understand, and what you've gone through. It's like, it's crazy. Like, it's like, you know, your blood, sweat, and tears. You were still out there today pulling the stakes, doing stuff, and then you're just getting ready to drive to Arkansas with the whole crew and do it all over again I'm
out of here on Friday. Yeah, no, when you called me, I'm like, dude, I'm still pulling trash stakes because I got a skeleton crew. Like, I'm telling you, I had way more fun at my training camp with the Estes and Yamaha guys down in Daytona before flat track, like riding moto. You know, I was in the summer, I was riding turn track up at Nikki Hayden's old property in Owensboro. Like, I'd much rather be doing that. But like, I feel like, hey, I can do this too, right? And if I can make a little bit of living and wear a couple different hats, I love mountain biking. But yeah, at some point, like, man, maybe I just go hang out and be a trainer again, and keep those guys off the Tim Tams and the candy. And
no, we need you though. We need you to keep having the Vail races, the Arkansas races, and more races. This is what's helping support these guys to live their dreams out, right? I hate to say it, and we're using you, Ty. We need you. So we got to get some stuff figured out with UCI and then USA Cycling, so we can stop landing on top of each other and get these guys to the Olympics.
Because if it's not you, who is it? It's the next guy that feels like, oh shoot, I need to pick up the slack, and I'm sure that person would potentially be out there, but why go looking, especially when our governing body can just, I don't know, lend a little helping hand and understand the work that, and I'm sure they do to an extent, the work that you're doing and stuff, but we got to hang on to this XC world in particular.
Is there not, sorry to talk over you, Spencer, but that's kind of my thing. But like, do you actually see the governing bodies working together to make this happen? Is that on the table, or is this just one of those things where you're just pushing a rock up a mountain?
Yeah, I feel like it's a rock like a mountain right now. And I gave you an example. They asked us to file with our governing body in July. So we have no idea of what World Cups and things are like. They won't tell you what that looks like. So you're throwing a dart at a calendar and you go, well, I've only got so many dates in SoCal, and then I need to go here and there. And then like you said, they announced their national series 3 weeks before mine, and they threw a UCI C1 on top of me over in Tennessee. So it's like, and they're like, oh, this is our national series. I'm like, how could this be a national series? You're like, you're gonna have two leaders so you got Chris and Haley win round one, and then you got someone coming out of Tennessee on the same day.
Yeah.
Like those are your series to me, that makes no sense.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
I don't understand that, and then like, again, but I don't come from a cycling background. So for them, it's a points grab. Oh yeah, but there's a lot of points over there. And it's like, okay, points in a I guess a calendar of events where you can get points. I'm all about that, but they keep talking like they want to bring back Norba. They want to bring back a tour. Well, you gotta have everyone at the tour. You gotta have everyone be able to get to each round.
There's 52 weekends out of the year too, right?
Yeah, that's right. And so, and then as soon as, and this is weird because it's an Olympic year, and so some of those racers, even during Fayetteville, we threw an HC. They're going down to Brazil a week early for a test event, and then it's the two back-to-back in Brazil as the World Cups. And for them, I get it. It's like top five, they get an invite to Paris. And you know what? They invest a lot in that. So Olympic years are a little better, but this happens all the time, stepping on each other, not a good travel flow. Teams can't get to it. And so, I don't understand it quite yet. Like how it's that difficult when again, Austin and Spencer, we probably come from that moto background, right? You start at Anaheim, kind of hit some West Coast, and then you Texas, then you're working your way, and then you're up into Indy, like general travel flow, right? And
which even that's gone haywire these last
True.
All right, Ty. So we're gonna have Chris coming here in a second, but I want you to give us a little info about Fayetteville, and then maybe we have you on afterwards, and maybe we dig in deeper into this subject a little bit too.
Yeah, I'd love to, man. So Fayetteville's coming up April 3rd through the 7th. So
where can people sign up if they want to race, if they're in the area as well?
Yep. No, head on over to the US Cup MTB.com. You can find everything there. First race kicks off is a UCI C1 on Wednesday. And then we have a short track Friday. Saturday is in oars category. So that's that only HC in North America. And then we finish with a complete amateur day. That's everyone from a Cat 3, which I call beginner, to a Cat 1, which I'd call expert. And man, we close the weekend off there, man.
Perfect. Well, thanks for coming on, Ty, and thanks for helping me get some of these athletes on tonight. And
no, man, take care of them.
Yeah, let's loop back around after Arkansas and have a little talk.
Hey, have a good one, man. Catch
you
guys.
Thank you, buddy. All right, bye. All right, you guys. Our next guest is here. We got Blevins. He's in the waiting room until a few minutes, but let's bring him on in.
Wait.
Oh, no, he's
Can
coming.
we just give me a second to try?
I already clicked it. Sorry. Come on, get it together. Hey, what's up, Christopher? Uh-oh, now he just takes his earphones out. Uh-oh. Maybe he can't hear us.
Can you hear me?
There we go. We can hear you.
Only the left one's working. And I'm deaf in my left ear, so I have to put the left in my right ear.
Oh, no way.
Oh, is that true?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, that's some great info right there. Jamesy over here.
Wait, I'm like,
Hold on.
sorry, I'm dealing with a light situation, but you said that you're deaf in your left ear?
Yeah.
Oh.
I broke my head when I was BMXing when I was 10.
What?
And it went through my inner ear. So.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Okay.
God, this light's terrible.
All right. Sorry. Let's get an introduction here. This is Christopher Blevins tonight on the show with us.
Oh my goodness.
Jamesy's having technical difficulties. We just had Ty on. Christopher Blevins, the winner of the U.S. Cup at Vail Ranch this over the weekend, an Olympian, the great hope for XC racing in the U.S. This is one of our greatest athletes coming out right now. Christopher, the floor is yours. Thank you for coming on. This is Spencer Rathkamp, and we got Jamesy over here. He's having a little technical difficulties.
As ever. Congratulations on your win this weekend.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Talk to us about it. I mean, the rain was on the line there for a little bit. It was all over the place. Yeah. Can you run us through it a little bit?
Yeah. Well, great to see you guys.
Likewise.
And yeah, Austin, it was 5 years ago now when you were at the U.S. Cup, and
Yeah, it's been a while, right?
I was talking about the flowers in Vail Lake, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And you had that whole strategy on how to win. I mean, that was the day I learned how much strategy goes into winning an XC race.
Yeah, for sure. This one was a little different.
Wait, what happened with the flowers?
Yeah. Sorry, I was going to come in on that one also.
Oh yeah. Well, so this was probably a couple weeks later. So like it was proper spring bloom, and for some reason in a little interview he had after, I was really determined, I think, to like get the name of the flowers right because I said the wrong name like 4 times. And I think he cleared it up for me. Told me what flowers they were.
I can't remember what they were too now.
Okay.
Really, those
I didn't
weird
see any of
flowers that we
them.
have. Yeah,
Any of them this year?
I don't know.
I thought you were going into some weird race tactic where you're like, talking about the flowers while you're racing or something. And being like,
well,
hey,
he
man.
might have been using that tactic. He used a good tactic though.
Yeah.
Never break wind.
No, nothing like that. But yeah, it was kind of a group sprint that year in 2019. And the following year was COVID, when the world kind of everything shut down, and we were in Vail Lake. And the USA Cycling canceled all races the night before, so we woke up to that news.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been crazy. It's been 4 years already, but it was good to be back there. And I don't get to really race in the US all that often these days. I got home and had to deal with some house stuff and just packed up immediately. And I'm realizing that the next time I'm like in the US after this next trip, I may not be home until September or something. I won't race in the US until September. But anyways, so it was just good to be there.
Yeah.
And the course was sweet, like you said. It rained a bit, which I've never had a race where the conditions changed every lap. Like one lap, it was perfect, just hero dirt. And then it was slick. And then it was like right at that buffer where it would dry up enough to be hero dirt. And then the cycle would happen again. So that was kind of a fun wrinkle to it. But
that place is interesting, huh? I raced there. I used to race there a ton, and then I raced XCN and Enduro there like a couple weeks ago, and same deal. It used to, no matter what back in the day, no matter how much it rained, it would be like epic. And then I raced a couple weeks ago, and it was raining pretty much the whole race, and I went through the same process. It was like insane the first lap, and then the second lap it kept raining, got super slippery, and then stopped and was like slowly drying out. And yeah, there never used to be that like slop. So I wonder if just all the time of packing everything down or what's changed. But it's super interesting.
Yeah, it's cool there. I didn't get to ride much of the trails beyond the course, but yeah, it's cool that they have enough to run a proper enduro and everything.
Yeah, they've done a good job. Eric Carter
Yeah.
and Stephen Walton have taken over that place, and it's pretty cool facility as a whole. Really, I mean, it's a KOA, so Campground of America, and they had to invest a certain amount of money back into it in order to keep it around and keep it alive. And they did parts of it in the facilities, meaning like all the little buildings and bathrooms and all that stuff, and then also a couple $1 million I think went into building this bike park, and they're still working it in. And it's not the most elevation, not the craziest, but they're making it work, and they're putting a downhill race there as well in a couple months in Enduro, and then one of the bigger US mountain bike races, XC mountain bike races.
Yeah, and I'm curious. First of all, Eric Carter, obviously BMXer, right?
Yep.
He did a good job on that step up, but I raced with him. I mean, as a 10-year-old when he was
Wow.
pro and everything for years.
Killing it.
So it's cool to hear his name when Ty told me that he built that course. But
Yeah.
I'm curious if we're going to race in Vale Lake in 2028 for the Olympics.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, LA, it's either there or Benelli Park.
I didn't think of that. Where else would they
Yeah.
go?
Exactly.
Benelli's a little more LA. That's what I will say, that has going for it. But yeah,
Where do they all park though for Benelli?
Well,
I feel
that's
like I've
one
been
thing,
there and
but
it's hard to park,
LA as a whole, the Olympics, I mean, I'm sure Christopher, you know more than I do, but they're spending so much money in infrastructure right now. They're changing all of LAX to try to make it so people can get in and out of there better, and it's a
Complete
big
nightmare.
deal. I know that they're taking it seriously, and it's coming. So we'll see what changes.
Yeah, it could be exciting.
Yeah,
will be exciting.
So speaking of Olympics, it's the Olympics year. This is your, again, I don't know everything, but this is your first year in a while, I believe, not racing Cape Epic, and now you're racing here in the U.S. to get some points. Obviously, it's pretty important to get some points, but also starting off with a proper XC race instead of marathon stage race. What's obviously Olympics are the plan. What's going on?
Yeah. Well, I think you guessed it. Cape Epic was just, it takes so much out of you, physically and mentally, and I don't regret doing it the last couple of years. But I do think that, it takes a toll. The effort itself is the hardest thing you can do in the sport, but then there's the mental wind-up. There's, going all the way over to South Africa and then coming home and then starting your season and trying to get that snap back that you need for XC was just a challenge for me the last couple of years. So yeah, I mean, the safe route was not doing Cape Epic and trying to just do the perfect prep possible for the spring World Cups and then hopefully the Olympics. So yeah, we got the Brazil rounds leaving just a couple weeks. So it's all just around the corner.
So last year you did Cape Epic. Do you think that that's what because the 2 years before that, Snowshoe was your race, and then I feel like in 2023, a little bit of a rougher year for you. Do you think that it had to do with more of not doing these spring races as much? I mean, you kind of did Arkansas twice in a row, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many factors, and what I've learned is when you've got the 40 best in the world all, doing everything they can, like it really is such a small difference that bunch of little differences that add up. There are not many sports that are that clean cut, just like pure race the 40 best every World Cup. It's like in road racing, you can kind of hide and like get lucky, get in the right group or whatever, but you can't hide on a World Cup course. So yeah, I think we did a lot of things right last year, but I just kind of spent the whole year chasing my tail in a way, trying to like get some form and figure it out. And sometimes it just doesn't come together in the way you think it will. And you're like, all right, this is the weekend. And then this is the weekend. And, I kind of spent the whole year feeling like I could take a leap to get in the top 10 again or land on a podium, but it's a freaking hard sport. And yeah, it was motivating to come out of it without the results that I was hoping for, and realize that, yeah, I got a chip on my shoulder a little bit, just something to prove to myself to try to get it right. And there's no guarantees by any means, but I think I've had a good winter, good early spring so far.
And a new bike.
Yeah, for sure. The new bike's good.
Are you running that thing like 120 front and rear?
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah.
Right on. Yeah, that's sweet. I have the Epic Evo, and I'm gonna do some XC racing on it also, just a little bit local stuff. And I was just curious if you guys are running the full 120 setup, and if it feels just like your 100 mil bike from years past, or what?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the names have really blended, and the distinctions are small, but they matter a lot. Like this Epic 8 120 is kind of replace the Epic Evo from last year that we were racing on.
Yep.
And then it also is like the evolution of, the platform, pedal, suspension, brain with the flight attendant, which is this whole thing. But like, I think a lot of people who are Epic Evo riders, like who like more travel, who never would have ridden an old Epic because it was just too XC, and the Epic Evo is more playful and, fun. This new Epic 8 is really like, there's so much to it. You're not missing out on anything. Like the extra 10 mil to have a 130, 120 setup on the Evo is rad. But like the way that the Epic 8 pedals is massively improved. That's where it does really, you don't compromise anything that you would get with a 100 mil travel bike. But then like it's got these bottom out bumpers and it's just really good suspension. So I've tested it quite a lot. And around here, I'm in Santa Cruz, and you don't have super choppy like rocks everywhere. You just kind of have big hits and fast corners, and I don't think I could go that much faster on a trail bike. Like the new Evo, the new Epic 8 is just it's great. So yeah, I mean, I think it's the best cross country bike ever made. I haven't ridden anything but a Specialized for 15 years, but like
15.
Sales pitch right here.
Yeah. No. And I'm trying to not sound.
No, but for real,
that's
like, crazy though.
Yeah.
15. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's Specialized well.
I should have said not. I overstated that. Maybe like what am I? 26. So
really
11, 12 years. Yeah.
What were you on before that?
BMX bikes.
Wow.
A little
Just
custom mountain bike.
Wow.
Yeah, I get like my parents got me Specialized when I was 12 or 13. When I was 10, my dad was friends with a local frame builder, and he built a custom mountain bike that was like super sick for me.
Wow.
But then as soon as I could ride a 29er, I got a Specialized hardtail.
Straight on 29er?
Yeah, well, this is like, I don't know, I was probably 13 or so.
Yeah.
It's pretty tall. But yeah.
Huh. And then, so what got you into racing? Because we just had Ty on before, and we were talking about how the turnout to races aren't as big as they were. So what was it that took you from riding BMX? You got this great mountain bike from your dad's mate, and then the Specialized 29er. When did you start racing mountain bikes in that whole time?
Yeah. Well, I started with BMX when I was 5 and was super serious, like national BMX racer. So I'd go to all the national races and be traveling like twice a month to some national. And then growing up in Durango, just the thing you do is mountain bike, So started with Durango Devo in elementary school. And then I think I went to a national championships in Vermont when I was 10. My dad took me there, and like by the time I was 15, I was like 10 years into my bike racing career, which is so I really was lucky, and I think kind of unique to like just have been racing my whole life. That's not the only way to do it, and I slowly just gravitated more and more to mountain biking.
Like your area, do you know who John Tomac is?
Yeah, of course.
It's kind of wild. I was having a conversation with him about 10 years ago, and we were talking about.
Do you know? Yeah, what a fucking useless question that was.
He lives down the street from him. I don't know.
Sorry, I might be kind of like barking right now, but genuinely, dude. Anybody that's ridden bikes,
you can live in that town and never meet John Tomac. Okay,
that's very true.
Yes,
that's very true.
But I feel like you would still know who he was.
Nah, you don't know. He just rides by on the trail, probably never even says a word.
Anyway, sorry, Austin. Please continue.
Look, I was like 10 years ago talking to John, and I didn't know as much about cycling at the time, and I was like, "Hey, man, who's this? Who's going to be our next like USA guy? We haven't really seen a USA guy." And he said your name, and I was like, "Who is that?" It's fast forward 10 years now, right? And it's kind of wild to see where you've transcended to and seen that type of stuff. But maybe rewinding a little bit, like, did you ever ride with John? How did he meet you, or did he know? Like, is there any type of relation there?
There's actually not. Besides, like, that's cool. That's a cool story. Because I can't remember a time talking to John. Like I've had so many encounters with Ned Overend and Todd Wells, but I should say, like, John lives in Cortez, so he's a little bit outside of Durango. I do know Eli. I knew Eli well-ish, from the BMX track, and his cousin Jordan Roop was like my coach growing up. So Eli and I would BMX a bit, and he'd come out, and this was before he was Eli Tomac. So I'm sure when I was younger, I met John and talked to him, but I think it's pretty cool that he's got his ranch and still rides, but is like, he's just got his whole thing going on. But he's left such a legacy, and was in many ways one of the founding fathers of mountain biking and just the Durango, lineage, so to speak. And it's been really cool to kind of like be compared to him in a way, because of like the multidiscipline stuff, and nobody can really be compared to John, but so there's no relationship, but in some ways I feel like I know him, and everyone in Durango has kind of got that, path to follow.
Is there something in the water there? Because I feel like you guys are popping off some really great riders from that area.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. Like, I don't know why it's the way it is to some degree. I understand that it's culture. It's like you can see where a bike can take you 360 degrees all the way around you. You've got an Olympian who's your neighbor. You've got like someone who's coaching who you could step in for when you're, that age. You've got like people who love the bike and follow it to like film careers or whatever it may be. So Durango, just culture around mountain biking, and obviously it's produced some pretty good road racers too. Both of them.
Seriously, it's wild. I'm blown away by it.
Well, I mean, that was the whole thing. Like when I left home in 2001 to come to America, like Durango was the place I wanted to go because that's where all the racing was. That was like World Cup days and everything like that. So I think Durango's always had that thing. And I do like, is it that it's kind of coming back around, or is it always kind of been there and stayed there? And then maybe just again, like I always go back to social media and the internet and all that kind of stuff, but are we just getting focus points on other places because they're so readily available? Whereas like back in the 2000s, early 2000s, it was like we'd see it over in Britain in Mountain Biking UK or Mountain Bike Action or magazines, do you feel, and I know that you're younger and like obviously you were born late 90s, but from your knowledge of Durango and everything, is it always still been that kind of mountain bike paradise that has been like the epicenter of your mountain bike world?
Yeah. Well, I think that on the male side, on the men's side, there's been an Olympian from Durango, like for maybe every single mountain bike Olympics, at least since 2004. Maybe I don't know if Travis Brown went in 2000. He lives in Durango, but Todd Wells, Howard, and myself, and we've got the top two potentials this year from Durango. So And the ladies side, there's obviously a lot of legends too. So yeah, I mean, it's just been consistent. And for me, it all has to do with Durango Devo in the youth program.
Yeah.
Really?
And the BMX track, where I got my start. And it's just those individuals, Chad Cheney and Sarah Tesher, who, there are a lot of articles about them now because some random French Spain, publication who read about Sepp's growing up, like, interviewed Chad Cheney, for after his Vuelta win.
Yeah.
But like those big things can just be propelled forward by like these few individuals, one person starting BMX track or a youth riding program, it just grows. And I don't think we can like underestimate the impact of that. Like Ty having one person really at this point who's continuously showing up, to host races, UCI races in the US. Like, yeah, I don't know what we do without him and kind of this US Cup series. So just says a lot about how one person and could lead to another person, which can lead to like a whole culture.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, what do you think about, I don't know if you happened to be on a little bit ago, but listening to that whole situation.
Yeah. So was he said, I heard you say, I didn't hear him, but that the ridership at races has dropped off a bit.
Yeah, we were talking about Norbit entries back in the day were about
Okay.
1,500, right?
Yeah.
And then now we're 500 to 800 type of situation.
Yeah, man. I mean, I could talk for hours about the like perplexity of, I don't know, the youth development, something like 85 junior men and 50 junior women at the US Cup. But then there's this fall off. There's this like just gap where there's no way to pursue it professionally in the US without getting lucky or like being really talented to have brand support and everything. And there's tons of people and organizations, USA Cycling has done a lot of great things. Others have to like try to bridge that gap. But people in the US, it seems like these days, mountain biking is just a recreational activity, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But I think the US has more mountain bikers than Europe, for sure. Like, we sell more bikes. It's important to the industry. But the gap to like understanding racing and participating in it or following your pro racers is just a lot bigger than I think it is in Europe. And like obviously gravel's growing a lot. Road is dying off in the US. And I'm just so loyal to mountain biking and biased. And I just want to see like the vision of what mountain bike racing can be in the US, like be what it can be,
So how do you think we can make it less daunting for a not so typical racer to come out to a cross country race and try to race? I mean, for an example, if you look at golf is a fairly competitive sport that you can play recreationally and compete recreationally. I mean, you have like strict tee times where people are paying lots of money to go just play a course with their buddies. Maybe racing, I guess, lining up would be a little different, and that would maybe compare a little more directly to a bike park. But I think that there's a lot of people maybe that are closer to our ages that, like you were saying, you got the massive groups of kids, the fields of kids are great, and then there's not really much in between the middle-aged person and the pro racer.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that people like you and whoever else play a role in one, inspiring, but also trying to get people back on to, I mean, myself, all of us, everyone in the industry to some matter plays some role in getting people to participate in more ways than just buying the bike. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts or solutions or potential?
Yeah. I mean, I think that there are a lot of creative approaches that like can be taken to hosting mountain bike races or bringing people out, making them more welcoming. It's not like mountain biking is or cross country is, some people don't think of that as an activity that they, want to even entertain doing. But it's worked in NICA in its own way. NICA obviously doesn't extend past high school. what's appealing about the gravel races is it's this challenge that people wouldn't do by themselves. You know, they wouldn't ride this 100-mile crazy course, say it's Leadville or Unbound, without like a reason for it, a belt buckle at the finish line. Like, you know, it's like running a marathon. People take a lot of pride, as they should, in like finishing something like that. Cross country, doing laps around some park in East LA, like, doesn't have that same, I think, satisfaction for people of like doing this crazy challenge. Yeah. But it is much more spectator friendly, and it's such a cool discipline because it's, you know, it's this like in between distance of super intense but short enough where, or long enough where you have to be an incredible endurance athlete for it, you know? I would love to see like ways to bridge, you know, super challenging UCI courses that are inspiring for people to like, you know, the Nike kid to look at and like get up to, or the weekend warrior who's working a desk job to like be able to appreciate the sport at that level, but then like be able to pair that with a mass participation race that's maybe longer, maybe a marathon, or maybe just a mellower course that, which just obviously happens to some degree, that's like there for those amateurs. One format that I'm really interested in, this is just a fun thing to think about, is like the Grinduro, you know, rally style. There's this race in Durango I haven't been to, just started last year, Durango Derby, and it's XC segments throughout like a 50-mile, I don't know what it was, maybe longer, ride where they like go through all the trail, you know, trails in Durango, different, and they stop at different places, and you can meet up and ride with your friends in the next segment, like an enduro style. But then there's like a mass start race from there. I think that's a cool format.
Yeah, there's another one up in Whistler called the Back 40.
Yeah, Back 40.
Yeah, exactly. I think I'm gonna go do that one this year. Seems.
I mean, how is that different from what's the Canadian one? Is it Trans BC?
BC Bike Race?
Oh, BC Bike Race.
Both.
Sorry about that. Is it kind of similar?
And there's Trans BC Enduro, but no. So yes and no. This is more like BC Bike Race is like a marathon stage race, and correct me if I'm wrong, Chris. It's multiple days of racing cross country with or without a partner, and then the Durango Derby and then the Whistler Back 40 that I just brought up, like those are you have one big greater loop with multiple stages, and within it are multiple races as well. So you can do a segment like an enduro, hit the bottom of a stage, whatever, hit the bottom of a climb or top of a climb that you just raced up, then look back for your buddy, say, "Oh, I smoked you," whatever, and then ride to the next one and start over again, you know? And then it's much more social race.
Okay.
The whole way
so
through.
Like obviously with a race like that, I'm sure the logistics and everything. So we were talking about it, some of these current races that the two races Ty's putting on, 500 to 800 unique participants. Like what can you imagine at one of those stage races? Like as far as participation level?
I don't know. I want to hear what you guys think, but like, I think this is like how to combine, you know, the accessibility of XC racing, you know, where you're like with a group or you're at a location and you start and finish at the same place, and it's less logistically challenging. Like combine that with the mass participation, like let's go out and do an epic ride, you know, and like actually cover terrain and do that with friends. I mean, that's where like the true, I don't want to say true spirit of enduro is, because I don't know if that...
No, I think you know, you're right. Like
it sounded a little bit like an enduro race more than anything.
Yeah, it's like an XC enduro in a ways,
but I think like going back to where I think you were going with it, with something that I talk to everybody that'll ever listen to me about, is that we ride bikes. Well, we all started to ride bikes with our friends. We had fun doing it, right? So that is still a big part of it. And there are people that go out there and race and stuff. So along those lines, and I'm sure that this is one of the dumbest questions in this whole like somebody's going to be listening to this podcast and be like getting really excited about all this XC information
John
at this
Toma?
high level.
That's what I-
Hey,
Do you know
stop
John
it.
Toma?
that's what I was gonna say.
You know what?
Oh,
I think
dude.
Christopher has to go now. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, but my thing is something that I think is great at races, and you guys as cross country people tell me, but like the camaraderie at the pits, the people camping out or whatever kind of situation, not maybe so much the parking lot parties, but like that whole vibe. And I think that if there is a sponsor village or whatever that like really brings more people in, brings it for a family place when your weekend warriors come out to race, like, is that something that you think could ever attract more people? And I know that's probably a pretty dumb question, but I'm just curious on that. Like, that's a big thing about the big mountain enduro. I was always very like, dude, it's all about the pit party. It's all about people coming out and having a good time. Not getting wasted. I'm just saying, like, it had games for kids. There was times that families could hang out when their significant other or their mum or dad are racing, right? Is that a big thing in cross country?
Yeah. No, it's a great question. I mean, it's a great topic too, because like, you know, you're not in a stadium watching a soccer or basketball game where like, you know, you've got popcorn and beer being passed around and it's just this controllable environment. But I think like cycling, to make it spectator friendly and just family friendly and fun friendly, like having kind of a festival feel around it is something that I haven't seen on a large scale, like, have been figured out quite yet. And I think Discovery with the mountain bike World Cups now, like I've heard that that's part of their goal, is to just make it more of a festival. There's music, there's the mass participation race, there's all this stuff, which I don't know, you know, they've got a lot of challenges and ways to go to get there, but it'd be great to be able to go to a mountain bike race and like have reasons to get on your bike yourself, but then have it be this whole experience beyond standing in a forest and watching people go by and then going home, you know?
I mean, kind of what Crankworx is like a little bit.
Yeah,
I feel like a Whistler.
For sure. You know, I mean, Sea Otter is obviously like a trade show to a degree, but you go there and you've got all this stuff going on. And I think teams, sponsors, you know, our setups at the World Cups are quite fancy. They're becoming bigger and bigger every year. And it's not really for the riders. It's more for the fans to be able to see the bikes on display and get this whole like feeling of the sport. So yeah, I mean, I think more of that is needed for mountain biking, and it obviously takes money to like grow to big stages like that, and you know, industry support. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of ideas in this way.
I got a question then on, so the World Cups, the courses and the way all those are, you know, short track and everything like that, it's kind of like their idea to get that better TV coverage, that more racing and stuff. Do you feel like maybe the US lacks so much of like the amateur level of that? Does that kind of make sense if I'm trying to say that? Like, where does a guy go in the US to really ride something like that? Like Fayetteville seems to be the only one. Vale's trying and doing pretty well at it as well, but like, where else do you go for that type of stuff? Like in Europe, they're scattered everywhere, I feel like, compared to unlike here.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't take that much. Like, I would say I like riding in the US way more than I like going to Europe. I mean,
really?
They have, I'm not talking about courses. I'm talking about like, you know,
Durango
trails.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Santa Cruz. Yeah. There's some good trail builders in Europe, but a lot of it is like hiking trails and, you know, stuff like that. The race courses are really, I think, just like the demand is there. People want to race. You know that you're going to get some Swiss 10-year-olds to show up, and like, then you build the course. And I think if there was more demand outside of NICA and kind of in that amateur range, and for the pros, or I would say with the pros, that like you kind of need the supply first and then the pros come.
Yeah.
But on the lower level, it's like build people who want to bike race, and then a network of promoters, people like Ty who can build courses. And you know, you don't want to make a course that's a World Cup level one and scare people off, or have people get hurt. But there's tons of places where it could happen. And before things have kind of trailed off, like when I was 13 going to races, like there were plenty of locations. And then on the pro side, like we need a good, I know you probably talked about the plans for the US Cup in the future, but like a really legit series that can bring pros back to mountain biking who maybe left to gravel, or whatever it may be. And hopefully like industry support, sponsor support, there's a prize purse and good UCI points. But, you know, and I think like building a following around it to get people excited, you need that. And then I think the pros will come.
Yeah.
So just to be like super surface level about it, do you think that the pros are going to chase? Well, I guess maybe I already answered this question in my head, but with regards to like if they're going to chase the prize purse, or is it going to be the accolade of winning against their peers on like a gnarly course? Like is it as simple as just prize purse is what's going to dictate getting the most pros in one place at one time?
Yeah, well, you know, in cross country, it's like the end goal is obviously the World Cup and making it on a World Cup team, which those are all in Europe. Like we have Trek and Specialized that are American teams, and there's 4 or 5 riders amongst those teams, and then the rest are like someone like Kate or Sevilla are on European teams. So like there's no way to really be a pure domestic racer, XC racer, and like make money. Like if you're just doing XC, it's just not possible right now. It used to be 5 years ago when the epic rides were happening, you could make money off of prize money as a marathon racer, mountain bike racer, but now it's all you know, lifetime gravel and some mountain biking. But I think it's a little bit of both. If you have world level courses in the US and like good competition, it's exciting for everyone, especially for racers. But you need to have some path to having there be a reason, having there be a path for people to do it professionally.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And you got to be able to pay the athlete needs to be able to pay for their travel there if they don't have the sponsorship dollars to do it. So winning that prize purse obviously helps with that.
Yeah,
for sure.
It's only money, guys. It's only money.
Yeah, and unfortunately for cross country mountain biking, I think the gravel scene did a good job of capitalizing on that, and it brought a lot of people that you may have been racing against in the past to gravel that are chasing a little bit of both of what you were just looking after, James. One, the prize purse was there, and then also there's some marketing budget surrounding lifetime that turns it into much more of an accolade than it was 6 years ago or whatever. And now there's this split between cross country mountain bike racers that went to race gravel, and then also pro tour roadies that came over to race and chase the same thing. It's interesting, and I mean, yeah, there's people that have taken great advantage of it and made great careers for themselves. And yeah, I mean, I think for all of us, we want to bring it back to mountain biking, because that's where our hearts fall, I think. So yeah, it's an uphill battle, but
so we got to figure out how to get the spectators there, so sponsors want to come there because the spectators already there, and then everybody wins, right?
Or
Simple as that.
participation. Back to what Christopher said. Like I think realistically, the accolade of a normal cyclist that isn't a racer to go finish Unbound is much greater than it would be to go finish a Vale Lake Pro MTB, whatever it's called, US Cup race.
Mm-hmm.
You can go spend however much it is to go race Leadville and chase that big belt buckle, and that's worth it, because now you bring the whole family out there and have a little vacation, whatever, and then do this crazy thing and have that type 2 fun of, hey man, I got a big belt buckle, which I think I got one right here, but but anyways, like you're chasing that, whereas XC, it's a little more difficult, but it's not impossible. I think there's opportunity. Back to what you're saying, and I'm starting to ramble here, but back to what you're saying about making it an experience for everybody. There's a lot of opportunity in the U.S. around bike parks or mountain resorts already that have infrastructure to have the playgrounds for the kids or whatever, like all these activities and the bars and the restaurants and everything. And I feel like snowshoe, mind you, it's 4.5 hours from anything. There's good opportunity there to bring more than just the racer in,
which they are not on the schedule for next year or this year.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's a good point, though.
And then back to what I think James was asking.
Who knows?
Why? So, I think I know the answer to this, but why did you choose to come and race at Vail Lake, and why is that so important to you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I really mean it when I say like just racing in the US is it's kind of a luxury for me now,
For sure.
because I'm, in Europe or Brazil this year so often. But so like, yeah, being able to drive down to a race in California is awesome. The course is sick. Like, it really is fun to do something that's that fast and flowy. And then obviously points, UCI points, and both for myself in the grand, typical year, but then this year it's for Olympic points. And I mean, I really will be, there's some years where maybe this is one of those years where I'll only race in the US like 1 or 2 times. And that does bum me out quite a bit. So I hope I can just keep coming to the spring races and maybe even summer races if we have those one day, more and more over the next few years.
So I got a question. I mean, you and Keegan are friends and tight, but okay, Keegan took the route of the lifetime in the gravel racing, I guess you could say, and then you took the XC racing life. Like, money wise, like, and you don't have to put a number on this, but like, would you have made more money being that way, or is to talk to kids that are, inspiring to be, wanting to be a Blevins, which is tell us, what do you think?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I mean, the range is so massive for both World Cup and privateer gravel, and that whole landscape is really like just taking shape now.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of opportunity to make more money there, but there's a lot of people who are basically working like double jobs because they have to take care of their own logistics. They have to be their own marketing machines, and that's time is money. And I'm kind of I compare it to like I'm working for a company and I've got a 40-hour work week, and they'll book my flights. I'll show up. I have amazing support from the team. And I don't, obviously, I'm in the sport. I have a job because the bike industry, people buy bikes and we help sell bikes and just get people motivated and stoked to ride bikes. And that's huge. That's hugely important, whether you're Tadej Pogacar for UAE or, the new gravel privateer. But I think there's certainly more of that in gravel. So I will say though, Keegan is making good money because Keegan's winning, and that's good to see. Like, Keegan's a great representative of the sport, like through and through, but he's also just an insane athlete, and people appreciate that he can go smash the Leadville course record, and brands appreciate that, and it brings fans to the sport. So I think that the risk may be higher because you have to book your own, you have to deal with everything. I probably could make more money in gravel, maybe, but I don't know. And I haven't really thought about it too much because I'm going for the Olympics, and I'm, really stoked and really lucky, quite honestly, to be able to have great support at the World Cup level, because I'm the only American guy right now who's able to get that support.
Yeah.
Who in the elite field, there's some U23s certainly, but so part of it is just like hard work, bit of talent, but also just I'm really fortunate to be able to do this and not have to like sacrifice it in order to put food on the table.
Totally. Yeah. Oh, for sure. You got one, James? Yes, you like iron.
Yeah, no, my
okay.
cogs are turning on the situation. And I think a lot of this comes down to, obviously, you are 1 in 8 billion or what have you, but there is like, and you've talked a couple times, you've gone back to the development and having that when you were growing up and stuff. And then that's where, like, I'm trying to remember, like, and I was terrible at riding racing bikes, but like the cross country stuff. And I feel like back then, and again, this is late 90s and this is in England, but it was a huge turnout. All the families were there. And I remember so many bloody kids doing it. And we look at Nike and then we're like, well, what is it that goes from so many people riding bikes at Nike to they get to college or whatever, and then before you know it, hey cowboy, and then before they know it, they just go off into like they don't race anymore. So what is that drop off? You know, that's my roommate.
Yeah,
She's a kindergarten
What's up, cowboy?
teacher, and there's a little cowboy.
Well, I think like a number of factors. One is like how many kids, play basketball in high school and then don't when they're in college, right? Or maybe they
Yeah,
maybe
really,
they play
really good
judo,
point. Something I never thought of there. Yeah.
My perspective, like I want to see the Nike kids or the UCI level juniors who are taking it seriously as a sport. Like I want them to bring a bike to college, not just like be burned out on it and then have that be an outlet for the rest of their lives, like be a lifelong cyclist and grow with it. And there are 1,000 ways to ride a bike, which is what's cool about it. There's like one way to play basketball, one goal to play basketball, which is score a basket, but on the bike, you can do whatever. So I think that's really important. Like that's not all about racing. That's what I'm saying. But I think that there's just not many sustainable paths for racing, mountain biking, or road, or whatever it may be, because there's not much industry around it, and the racing has just gravitated so much to Europe that you got to find ways to get over there and be competitive over there, which is really hard. And you got to have a lot of support at a young age, like I did, to be able to make it in Europe. But I don't believe that that's how it has to be. Like I think we can kind of take the sport back, have more races in the U.S., and that we'll have as talented of riders at a deep level, deep field if we kind of invest in the sport in the U.S.
So, like that being said, your summer, is it a plan to come back and just do like the USA Cycling National Championships, or even any of that, or like what would it take you to come back for the summer?
Yeah, I mean, it would take not making the Olympics. If I don't make the Olympics, I'll be at nationals. But nationals, unfortunately, is like 2 weeks before or a week before the Olympics.
Yeah.
So I'll be at Lake Placid World Cup. That's it.
No, that makes sense. So we won't be seeing you at the USA Nationals then.
Yeah.
That's cool though. I mean, go ahead.
No. Go keep finishing.
I mean, I had a little bit of a question. I mean, you had that, can I rewind a little bit? You had that battle with kind of Keegan, between you and Keegan and the team that one year. What was that kind of like? Because you were kind of the young buck and Keegan was a little bit of like he's not old, but a little bit of the veteran of that class,
Yeah. Well, I so wish we could have had 2 spots for that year, and we tried. But yeah, I mean, it's hard when there's only one spot, and I really appreciate how Keegan and I were able to just give it our best, and it was clear cut and simple. And I had better results at the first rounds of the World Cup, and I was the guy chosen. And yeah, I mean, being the sole lonely American mountain bikers at the Olympics is hopefully something that won't happen this year. Hopefully we'll qualify 2 spots and we're close.
Yeah.
And the women obviously are crushing it and in the top 3, of the nation, country wise.
You're just gonna have to work a little bit harder, you guys. Come on, step it up.
We're trying. But yeah, I mean, I think Keegan was an excellent World Cup racer, but not a top 10. And now he's found something that like he's undeniably like one of the best in the world at. He's just works so hard and is such a good, 100-mile racer and high altitude racer and everything that's in that realm. And I mean, I don't think, it's that he wasn't suited for World Cup racing, but I think he is definitely suited for for what he's doing now.
Yeah, grind
sure.
200 miles out. Just
For sure.
Yeah.
Turning off is what I like to call it, man. He can just bury himself. Yeah, no, it's interesting.
So we have about 5 more minutes left with you. One, we would love to have you back on for some more deep dives and some stuff. I don't know your availability, maybe when you're in Europe or maybe in the middle of the season. I don't know if you have some time for that. Is that possible?
Yeah, man, it's good to chat. I mean, these are all fun things to think about and just talk about. And I do want to see more conversations about, I don't like really just repeating the same story about myself to people, just, telling the Christopher Blevins story. But I do love talking about how to grow the sport and get more kids on bikes, and make it exciting. So if it's about that stuff.
No, we love that.
Yeah, it's super interesting, and I would like to have you back on also if you would want to, because I got a lot of questions, and one thing that I really firmly believe in, and we talked a little bit about it with Ty before you got on, was the personality and the individuals that are involved in the sport that help make the sport more relatable and help the sport kind of grow and reach more audiences, and maybe just in a couple minutes or whatever, we could kind of look at who you are that makes you more than just a bike racer. I know you have a bunch of different things that going on and other passions. And I think that personally, I would like to see your other stuff more than I think what's even shown on the Instagram or on the interweb. Because it's cool. And to be totally honest, like for me, I follow people online and I don't really follow the sport of cycling that much. I love it. I love riding my bike, but I want to know about who Christopher Blevins is other than the cyclist, because I can relate to the musician side or whatever, like you got stuff going on. So what makes you tick? If you weren't a bike racer, what would you be doing?
Yeah, man. Oh man, that's a hard question. But I feel you. And I think I'm really interested in, the human side of it all, like beneath the bikes and beneath the cut and paste, Instagram captions and stuff like that is just so cookie cutter, because there's so much underneath or just deeper to like all of the experiences we have on the bike. In racing, I think brings out so much vulnerability and so many emotions. You get the whole spectrum of emotions in this sport, and like that's really what I do it for and what I want to share and just bring more attention to, is just like what cool stories are there, what like little details are there that provide kind of a shared, a window into someone's life that we can all share. So I don't know. I mean, my life these days is pretty simple. Like I am kind of just a bike racer. I graduated from college, studied business and sociology, San Luis Obispo. And like I was doing a lot when I was in my college days. Like I was just kind of more scattered in a way, not necessarily in a bad way, but was just trying to do a lot and like be, a normal college kid as much as I could be, in a bike racer, and was racing more disciplines. And I think like now I'm just doing one thing, which is racing my bike and chilling a bit more and surfing and some other fun stuff for sure beyond it. But like, I feel like I've learned that being balanced is more understanding the full perspective around it, and knowing that there's more than just this bike racing thing to this world, and exploring it in whatever way I can. But being fine with just doing one thing, at once. So the other things that am interested in, do just to touch on it. Spoken word poetry and music. Like I haven't made much music recently, but like when I get into writing a song or writing a poem, like I get really into it and I care. Like I kind of bring that like athlete intensity into it, and it's really just been an outlet to express myself since high school, you know. And hopefully I'll be able to make somewhat of a project this year, somewhat of an album or something. But so that's kind of like the purest, like just creative side. But then I'm really trying to bring that into the bike a little bit more. So
which you have.
like yeah, you know, and it doesn't mean necessarily I'm gonna rap while I'm on a race or something like I did in Snowshoe, where I like rap the Red Bull recap, you know.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, but like some storytelling that kind of is creative. Like I've got a video project this year that has got some kind of creative elements to it. And then I'm working on this platform we're calling Still Spoke, which has been around a little bit. We're kind of bringing it back, and hopefully it'll be what we talked about, Spencer, what you touched on, which is just like the people beneath, you know, the bike racers we see, and a place for stories to share, to be shared. So yeah.
No, absolutely,
awesome.
dude. So I'm right there. Where my mind went, and kind of where I was trying to steer you towards is like projects like the Long Traverse. I was fortunate. I bet you don't even know this, but I was fortunate enough to spend a weekend with Dylan Oslinger a couple weeks before he went through there, and I helped clear the descent part of the Santa Cruz Trail and work on that. And I had heard about the project and heard about everything, and then watched it and when it came out. And for those of you guys who don't know, it is what do you call that? That is spoken word poetry, something like that.
A little bit of it, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Throughout most of it, and telling a story on the culture that is through the region, basically between San Luis Obispo and Santa Barbara here, and the whole corridor and everything that's going on. Watch it; it's super cool. But so like things like that gets me more fired up than watching a shred it of whatever, some sick rider. Like, don't get me wrong, that's cool, but that tells so much more of a story and shows so much more vulnerability. And I think a lot of people appreciate that. Maybe it doesn't get the million views or whatever, but it also gets the 20,000 or I don't know, however many people watched it. 47,000 people watched it. And I'm sure that those 47,000 people that saw it matter so much more and took that into so much more depth than a million people on whatever, someone else's video. So I don't know. Yeah. I'm fired up. Yeah. I'm glad to hear that you're working on stuff like that. I mean, this is a big year for you regardless, but I would love to see more of that stuff from you.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I appreciate it, man. And it's like, you know, I was just a small part about it. It was like the bike, the trail, the route, like showed, you know, much more of a people story, environment story. So thank you for clearing the trail, by the way. And also like your projects are sick. Like your creative takes to some like creative approaches you're riding and storytelling and super cinematic stuff. Like that's just such a fun terrain to like explore. And like it's pretty sick that the bike, you can do that, you know. Like again, not to talk about basketball as a comparison, but you can't really do a basketball shredded that's like talking about you know.
No, 100%. That's what makes me tick, and I think a lot of people appreciate that. So yeah, let's get to it.
Nice.
Yeah, we'll chat more.
Sweet, man. Thank you for coming on, Christopher. It was a rad time, and we'd love to have you on a little bit deeper dive into the poetry situation.
Yeah.
And thank you for everything, bud. And hopefully we'll see you soon. Maybe at a World Cup, maybe at US Cup. We'll see what's up.
Maybe at the Olympics.
At the Olympics, yeah. Seriously. Well, it's coming to LA, so man.
Yeah.
Well, that's in 4 more years.
E-bike class for me. So
I mean, honestly, there may be an e-bike, you know, the way the sport's going.
I like the way you're thinking right now.
E-bikes.
Yeah. I keep
where the money's
keep
going.
Talking that way. Yeah, that's right.
Become an e-bike athlete.
This body's ready for it. I'm training. All right, man. Thank you so much for coming on. I'll stop it, Jamesy. You love me.
All right, guys.
All right. Thank you so much, buddy. Cheers.
Have fun talking to you.
Yeah. All right.
Did you tell him to hold on so that he can like upload or whatever?
Well, his upload got canceled, and then we're using the screen one from that like we did in the last. It's a long story. All right, we got our next guest here. Yeah. Thanks, James. The #1 supporter here on the podcast. All right, you guys. Our next guest is here. I'm going to bring her on in. All right. Let's see if it goes. There we go.
I was looking for my Leadville buckle.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, that was a
It's
bloody
loading.
name drop, wasn't it?
There we go. What's going on,
hey.
Haley? You're all right.
Hey,
You're here with the
Hey
good
guys,
old.
how's it going?
Yeah. Well, we're deep in it, you know.
Yeah, we're trying to figure this out still.
We're trying to find Spencer's Leadville buckle up somewhere on his wall since he's just flexing on us.
No.
as an
That
athlete.
was part of
Yeah.
the conversation. Man. Come on.
Yeah. All right, you guys. Our next guest up right tonight is Haley Batten, U.S. Cup points leader, winner of both this weekend. Kind of rounded out her teammate Blevins, beating him. Yeah. So the floor is yours. Let's talk a little bit about it from the weekend. Back-to-back winner, and you did that last year, I believe, as well, right?
Yeah, I did. Can you guys hear me okay? Just checking.
No.
Yeah.
Oh,
good.
brilliant.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's perfect.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Yeah, no, it was great. It's always good to race in the US, race environment. US Cup, Ty Kady always does such a good job. And yeah, it's just nice to hear people cheer your name and be on home soil a little bit. And yeah, just good vibes. We race in Europe all the time, so it's nice to be back and have that environment. It's always fun. So
I think last year I met you, and afterwards we were doing, because I did the streaming, and you were saying you were instantly moving. Was it to France or Paris or somewhere in Europe? I believe.
oh yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, my boyfriend and I actually got a like a long-term Airbnb in Annecy, France last year. So we were there for 6 months actually,
love that
just to
town.
be fully based in Europe. And it was amazing. It was like so cool. That area was incredible. The riding was so good, and just like a couple of World Cups we could just drive there. And that never happens. We're often just like flying back and forth from Europe all the time. So that definitely made such a big difference for performance. And yeah, it was really cool. Definitely an amazing life experience too.
So are you still there, or you're back here in the US now? Or
Yeah. No, we just did that for 6 months of the season, and then I came back, and I split my time between British Columbia, just north of Vancouver, and Squamish, and then my family lives in Santa Cruz, California, so I hop in and out of here between my time racing. But this year I'll base in Girona, Spain during the season, so I'll be there for most of the European World Cup portion of the year. But we do have quite a few other World Cups outside of Europe this year. Some are in the US, Canada, and then early season is in Brazil. So I won't be there all year, but yeah, it'll be awesome.
I knew I missed my calling as an XC racer. I could live over there for 6 months and then come back.
Yeah, it's not bad.
So yeah, that step up, I want to talk about that. You were like the only woman to hit that last year. Was it the same thing this year?
Yeah, that's funny. No, it was actually the other way around this year.
What?
It was pretty cool. So last year I was the only girl to hit it, and I hit it every lap, maybe except for the first lap with traffic. And it was pretty cool because it took like a lot of guts for me to ride it, and it's actually it's a well-made jump actually. The risk isn't that high, and it looks really big because you come into it blind and then you kind of hop up, and all the guys were sending it. I was like, oh man, well we have to do the same. So this year, actually, a couple of the other girls rode it, but I actually didn't ride it this year at all. Like I probably rode into it multiple times and just like I wasn't clicking for it, and then I just let it go and moved on. But it's funny when you bring that up because that's probably the only thing I'm super upset about for the
What?
weekend. Like
You won
after
by
the
like
short track.
2 minutes not doing the step up?
Yeah, I know.
What?
You're really poking the right button here. Like,
No, but seriously, like that
Yep,
step
that's
up's more-
Austin.
Hey, sorry, gosh. All right. You know what, Spencer? You know what? You guys asked. Nah, sorry.
No, that was good. But it was sick because this year, like a few of the other girls like fully sent it and hit it. And way more women rode it this year than last year, for sure. So I think just every year, I think there was a lot of, pressure for Tide, like whether or not he should have put that jump in. And just because it's a big feature on a pretty chill course. But I think that just to see the level rise every single year, I knew, okay, well, if I hit it this year, maybe next year a few more will, and the year after that, even the junior women will. And I think that's just the start of what we want to happen in women's cycling. And I'm excited to see that in the years to come for sure.
Was it stacked up like I remember last year it was like practice day. People were lined up to try to do that thing and cameras were out. Everyone was waiting for the crashes.
Yeah,
Really?
that's true.
Oh,
I
yeah.
it was like the party of the whole race. Like everybody's just doing whips, like just laughing. It was like the most fun part, and I'd say it was the same this year too. It was just it was so fun. Yeah, it
You
was
could
cool.
put up a lawn chair and crack a beer, Jamesy, and it was fire. Like people with no dropper C post hitting it, spandex, almost dying.
I've seen a couple of photos from this year's one for sure, but everybody was looking really good. But apart from yourself, Haley, I apologize. However,
it was sorry.
I'm glad you.
Wow.
Well, let me ask you this though: do you think that having features like that, like the more that I've been kind of paying attention to cross country over the years, the courses are getting gnarlier and gnarlier, especially at the World Cup level. Do you think that having features like that where spectators can come out is going to potentially grow the sport? Like, I'm just trying to think of how we get more people to these races on like more of an amateur level, right? People that carry on. We were just talking with Christopher about it. Like after Nike, you obviously see such a drop off in racers. Is it something that how do we get more people to these cross country races as competitors and as spectators? And do you see that putting features like that in the cross country course and getting these gnarly rock gardens and stuff like that, do you see that as a good direction for the sport to go in? Or is that just kind of making things more glamorous for TV?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great question. I think both ways. Like, if you have a rider going from NICA and all of a sudden you're throwing them into a World Cup event and there's huge rock gardens and huge jumps, I mean, that's a big step for sure, and it can be dangerous. I think sometimes you see junior riders at those World Cups, and they're often the ones getting hurt, because they're like, oh, it's the A line, I have to ride it. And they're getting injured on like big gap jumps or rock gardens or something like that because they almost don't know the limit and they feel like because they're there they have to ride the A line. So I think for sure, I do agree that it's the way we want the sport to go. I think as mountain bikers, that makes us excited to race. I think it levels the sport from you can't just be a fitness rider. You can't be, maybe not all the roadies could show up, and absolutely ride away from the field. I think that's part of the skill set we want to have as mountain bikers. And I think you also want to have the complete package as the best racer in the world, is that they can ride amazing, challenging features and also ride them really well, where when they're maxed out their heart rate, they choose the right line, they don't flat, they choose the right equipment. It adds a whole level of like different elements and factors to racing, which I think is what we want in mountain biking. But I think, in World Cups and on those courses, having all the options of like A line and B line, where, maybe it's a bit slower to take the B line, but you can, look at the feature and have it in your mind and then go spend all winter long doing it, before you get to race day. And I think that's, for me as an athlete, what's most important is like you start to learn the courses, you see the features, maybe you're watching other races and you start to learn what you need to practice, how you need to become a better rider. And I think then you show up prepared. And when you're, prepared and you show up and you're like, okay, this doesn't scare me, I've done this before. That's the best way to be, because you don't want to spend, the whole day before the race just like fully stressed out, spending like all your energy just trying to complete a feature. It's like, I've done this before, I can do it well, and I can do it absolutely max on heart rate. And I think that's the key. And then, if you show up one year and you haven't done it before, maybe you take the B line and next year you show up and you can. So it's like a whole development process. And I think going back to NICA too, like in USA Cycling, it's preparing these kids at a young age for those type of, race demands. And I think, every year USA Cycling has national championships at different locations for 2 years at a time. So this year and last year is at Pennsylvania, which is super, slick and rooty and totally different from like I grew up in Utah. You show up and you're like, oh my gosh, like this
that
is
chunk
crazy,
was gnarly in the woods this year or last year. Yeah, that was serious.
So I think that's important, just like as a country, preparing, all these riders for all sorts of features, but realizing you have to ease into it and build into it for sure.
Yeah, it's good to see. First off, hi Haley, I'm Spencer. I don't think we've met before, but
you guys are teammates. How have you not met? Team Specialized, right here.
I don't think we've met. But anyways, wow. I grew up in Southern California racing. Didn't grow up racing, but I raced, and it's very much the opposite. So I'm like very excited to see the progression and start to be introduced in North American courses, because we were like in racing cross country even at Vail Lake. It was a perfect example. I raced there a number of times at the US Cup races when it was, I don't know, 10 years ago, 9 years ago now. And it was just a freeway, and the roadie wins 99% of the time. And if you can be, because the descents didn't matter, and that was my biggest struggle. I could descend faster than anyone else in the XC races, and then I would just be tongue in the spokes trying to keep up with the climbers, the roadies on there. And even in high school league, we were like kind of slightly reprimanded if we were jumping, and they wanted to encourage people to keep both wheels on the ground the whole time. And I think not just from descending in a cross country race, but the ability to try and fail and learn in technical aspects can just help your bike riding skills as a whole, whether it's in a parking lot or it's on a trail. So I don't know. I'm super happy to see that this stuff's going on. And then I just have a question on that. Is that something you're working on? Like, are you constantly working on descending and downhill technique and bike handling skills?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's super important. And I think every year I try and get better and better at practicing that kind of stuff. Because I think as a cross country rider too, it's a different world than like downhill or like enduro even, where it's like that is the goal of like choose line choice, like riding different features and doing it really well from like a skill learning sport, I guess. So I think I always thought like, oh, if I just ride like gnarly terrain all the time, I'll get better. And I think that's definitely true. Like if you just do the thing, you'll get better.
To an extent.
But now I'm learning a little bit more how to do like focused practice and break it down a little bit more into like, okay, I'm going to practice cornering, I'm going to practice jumping, and spending like very focused time, like really trying to learn the skill set and making it like part of my subconscious so that when I'm racing, it's like instinct.
Yeah.
So that's definitely something like I put into my training plan, and it's more like balancing like, okay, I have to train and I have to work on skills and all these things, and just finding a routine that works well. But I think it's really important. I think you're right with these NICA kids too. It's like play and just like riding and doing things that challenge you. It's so important. Even just for like riding on the road, like if you're a good bike handler, like, you know, it still helps to ride well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's really important for sure.
Did
Well,
you?
when you, oh no,
Sorry.
Austin,
No.
give me a
Yes.
second.
No,
Let
hold
me
on.
talk.
No, hold on. Did you do NICA or no? Or how
Did
did
I?
you? Yeah, where did you come from on that level?
Yeah, I started racing. I grew up in Park City, Utah, and I started racing like my dad was doing local races, and I
Oh
was probably
wow.
like 9, you know. I did like the little loop in the grass and then slowly just got hooked and started racing. Like I think my first races out of state were like Sea Otter or something like that, and then national championships. So that's kind of how I got into it. But when I was a freshman in high school, my mom actually helped like get the NICA league going a couple years before I was old enough. So that was really just getting kickstarted Utah. Yeah, around
And
that before I was even in high school. And then when I was freshman, I knew the lady that ran the NICA program, and you're not allowed to race varsity as a freshman, but she got me in. And so
okay.
I won like every varsity race, and that was actually the last year I raced,
Oh,
unfortunately.
no way.
But like,
What?
yeah, I just like, I would always support the NICA program though, and I still go and visit and stuff. But yeah, a lot of my friends did it, and it was always a super fun vibe for sure.
Wow.
Huh.
All right, James, it's all yours. Take it away.
I've been holding on to this, and I hope that I can get it all out. ADHD and everything. But so when you're talking about like with your training and stuff, and that you're gonna like really focus on cornering for a concentrated period of time, or a rock garden, or like a feature, or jumping, or what have you, how do you work on that? Do you have like somebody coaching you on those particular things? Is that like where do you learn how to corner better? Is that just practice over practice, or do you have somebody coaching you, or like what's your approach to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think growing up, I just always rode with the guys, and that helped me a lot. And my boyfriend helps me a lot still. Like we ride together a lot, and he helps me like really break things down. But I also have been working with a skills coach starting last season. I got a concussion actually partway through the year, and that was like a big like kind of realization for me. I think I always thought that I think a lot of girls in cycling actually think this too in mountain biking. It's like, oh, just send it. Like the guys just have you know, they're not scared, so you just have to like do the thing. But I think actually like a lot of these like really talented riders. Like you don't just like do backflips and like all these crazy whips and things everybody's doing. I don't know all the terminology, but it's like step by step by step. It's like nobody wants to get hurt doing those gnarly tricks, and they don't want to just crash and break themselves either. So it's like really working up to that. And I think that's like really what I'm working on now is I think I just, as a young rider, I just send it, I do this crazy thing and my form wasn't really good and everybody be like, oh my gosh, you rode that crazy feature. But now it's more, actually, you can get really hurt doing that.
Yeah.
And I think I want to be a good rider and like like really skilled and that I do things well. And so after that concussion, I really started like working with this guy for skills, and he's given me this approach of just really focus, more mindset skills, and it's been awesome, super helpful, and really just in the details, I guess, more.
Yeah, because when you are working on these and becoming more comfortable and more everything comes more second nature, you're able to recover for bits and pieces of a descent, and I think that goes a long way. I was working with another XC rider a couple weeks ago, and we were working on descending solely so he can allow himself a little bit of time to breathe. And granted, you're going down much more technical things than he's going down on his cross country racing, but just every little bit of breathing pays big dividends when you're maxed out for an hour and a half or however long races are nowadays.
Yeah, that's a really good point too, actually. That's true.
Yeah. Huh. Well, that's super interesting, and that's super cool to hear. I've never really thought about that, and it's cool to hear that you are. And next year you got to hit that step up again.
Well, I will.
I never hit it. I watched everyone hit it. Okay, just to be fair.
We can move on from this. So, what does you? I don't know my ass from my elbow with all this kind of stuff, Haley. I'm trying to learn. But so what does you? I know that you I mentioned a couple of races and stuff, and that this is one of the few this year that you're going to be racing in the US. But what does your season look like? And give me a rundown of what your season looks like.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so this was kind of I started my season just with this race. I thought it'd be a good one to get things going. We race all the way until October this year. So I've raced earlier in the past, like in February, I would go to Spain and do a couple races. But this year I just like really focused on training and race this first US Cup. And then I go to Brazil actually April 3rd. And there's a C1 race there, which is like a points race, UCI, on the same course as the World's Cups the following weekend, or one of the World's Cups. So I'll be in Brazil for about 2.5 weeks and start the season there. And those World's Cups are included in our Olympic criteria for our Olympic spots, or at least we have 2 women's spots, but selecting which riders will take those spots. And then after that, I'll go to Utah, and actually Pan American Championships is in my hometown, or nearby at least, in Soldier Hollow, which is really cool because I grew up racing like when I was 9 years old, like in this amazing just zone, and I actually did a lot of Nordic skiing racing there. It's where they held like the cross country and biathlon Olympics when it was in Salt Lake. And so it's a really cool venue, but it'll be there and after Brazil. So I'll go there for a few weeks, and then after that I head to Europe to start the European.
Sorry, I'm going to interrupt you because I'm really good at interrupting. Surely one of your sponsors is going to be smart enough to do like a little homecoming edit about that race, right? Come on, Austin, go pitch that idea.
BG, are you on right now? Let's get this happening.
Yeah, that sounds like a good one. But then, so then you go to Europe and you're based out of Spain are you going to be over there 6 months? Is that correct? Oh.
Yeah, until about September this year. We have the Olympics obviously in July, and then World Championships end of August. And then from there, we have a World's Cup in Lake Placid this year in the US, and then Mount St. Anne in Canada. And then we also have Marathon World Championships actually in Snowshoe, West Virginia. So for me, my season right now like ends after the Olympics. My vision's like until then, all my goals, everything I think about planning wise. So after that, I'll see how I feel. But there's a lot of cool opportunities after the Olympics as well for great racing.
No, absolutely.
When's Pan Am?
Let's see. The dates on it are like end of May or mid-May.
Oh, okay. So that's okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Huh. Well, that'll be super fun then. Come home.
Yeah, totally.
So with so many of you guys, and I know, and again, I don't know anything, but we keep talking about so many athletes are going over to Europe and staying, and this goes across like, maybe I'm wrong on this, but like the EDR, so enduro stuff, like I think that all the races are over there this season, and so as a result, people like the US guys are like, well, how can I go like live over there but still with visas and all that kind of stuff? What do you think? And this is a very broad question, but what could the US bring with regards to races that would get more of you guys to come over and race over here? So is it like the prize purses? Is it the courses? Like, is it the point system? Like, what could you see? And again, this is a very broad question, and I get that, and we could talk for hours about it. But like, as a 30,000 foot view, what do you see as like some of the things we could be doing in the US to encourage more people to want to race in the US?
Yeah, I mean, that's a huge question, and I've
Yeah,
actually
it's
been in a lot of
gnarly big.
conversations about this. Yeah, but I think we're really trying to figure that out because obviously, like the Lifetime Grand Prix has really taken off, so I think that's brought a lot of excitement around domestic racing in the US. But I think for cross country, it's definitely like fading off a little bit, and a lot of that has taken off in Europe, and that's really where all of our races are. So you're spot on there. But I think a lot of it has to do with just aligning races with our World Cup schedule, especially for the elite riders. If we want the elite riders to come over and continue to make those races exciting, bring the sponsors, bring the show, I think, which is hard, because there's a lot of races in Europe. But just aligning it with that schedule, I think helps a lot. And then I think from, getting young athletes there and just making it competitive and bringing people there to race and amateurs as well. I think a lot of it has to do with, I think, getting a lot of those NICA kids somehow like to all these races. And I think a lot of them are showing up, but I think with the numbers we have in NICA, it's surprising how few are at, a lot of the, cross country UCI races or anything like that, which for me is really the next step of how you get to World Cup racing or start to race at a higher level. So, I mean, I think there's a lot of factors to it, but I think it's making a really nice pathway for these young athletes and the numbers that we have into like this, like a series or something that's, aligns with, getting elite riders there as well. The brand's excited about it. And there's a lot of factors for sure, but I hope it's on the way. And I think a lot of people are brainstorming to try and make it happen for sure.
And then do you like, and I still need to bloody watch it, which is terrible to say, but the Lifetime series where they did all the interviews with all the riders and stuff, and I am truly interested in that.
Yeah.
Do you see that as something like, what's your personal opinion on that with regards to, would you want to see that more on a cross country? Like I'm go back to that Formula One driven, right? So that kind of format, like in the cross country world, is there there's not something like that right now, right?
You mean like a documentary,
like a documentary series that glamorizes the riders, brings a little bit of drama in, sprinkles a little bit of reality TV on it,
Yeah, I mean, I think they had a series called Fast Life for a while that Red Bull did, but that's kind of, I think they have a new version. I can't remember, what the title is called. So they kind of did something, but I think you're right. Like building the characters in our sport, which there's actually a lot of cool people that race cross country and have great stories and are just like funny or super interesting. So I think there's a lot of stories that could be told. But I think it's really like up to the UCI, which I just am not sure if they'll do something like that, like just such a large cycling governing body. Yeah, but I think you're right. Like our sport would benefit so much from something like that. I think just to get people to understand what even is mountain biking. It's such this niche, crazy sport, but I think also we've seen a lot of growth in the sport from the brands and from just biking in general and the excitement in other disciplines and amateurs taking part. So I think we're on to something where it could just like take off. And I think something like that would be amazing and would help a lot just to get people following along and know who they want to follow and why and how they relate to them or something like that for sure.
Yeah, I think that's the whole thing. It's the storytelling aspect, and that might kind of open up people's opportunities to then learn a little bit. Like, I wonder how many Americans learned about the offside rule in football or soccer because of that Wrexham TV show, because those two celebrities bought that football team in England. I know that this isn't close to what we're talking about, but how many people learn more about football or soccer because they're watching this TV show with all these characters and we're telling the storyline, and that maybe can open the door a little bit more with like something like XC racing, like understanding who the fast kids are, understanding like what even bloody XC racing is and glamorizing it a wee bit so that more people, again, I'm just an ideas dude. That's all I get paid for.
And you're right. I think you're right too. And I mean, going back to like talking about growing US sport, which I think is what you meant. It's like if like a US circuit really jumped onto something like that, it could fully help that entire like getting everybody involved in racing and stuff. And that could be something that, you know, would help even just the international series as well. So I think that'd be really cool.
For sure. I mean, look at Drive to Survive for Formula One. That has entirely single-handedly brought back Formula One in an extremely popular way into the United States. And now we have two races. We haven't had we had one US race a while ago, and now maybe we might even have 3: Austin, Miami, and Vegas. And it's incredible how popular
it's like
US stuff is.
Everybody's watching that series. They don't even know anything about cars.
So true. Straight up. So true.
Yeah.
And maybe not everyone needs to know about XC mountain bike racing, but if we can develop a story and follow you and Chris and whoever else that are chasing their Olympic hopes, whatever that be, and have it in a super dramatic way, I'm sure people will be invested and yeah, that sounds super interesting. So let's
dude, this would have been the year. This would have been the year to do it because we could have built all the drama up towards the Olympics.
LA
like,
2028.
who's going to get there? Yeah, but that's 4 years away, dude. Social media is going to change so much by then. It's going to be a whole different pitch deck at that point. Anyway,
that's true.
So speaking of that,
it's not too late. The season hasn't started yet.
Exactly. James, get on it.
Get on it, Austin.
We're
passing the buck.
It's always me. I'm just trying to get them to have live streams at those just domestic races, you know? Shit.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome at the Vail Lakes. Yeah, that was really cool.
Maybe one day we'll have it back.
So speaking of personality and everything around that, are you doing much like in terms of marketing yourself and driving that, or are you kind of just there's 2 different ways to do this? I feel like there's people that just focus on racing and that's it, and they're doing every bit of their power to be the best racer that they can be, and then there's also people that try to race and perform as well as possible, but then they also try to be more of a Instagram or whatever internet personality and stuff and let people into their lives and build themselves fan bases. Are you where do you sit in that boat?
Yeah, gosh, I think I'm still trying to find my way with that a little bit. For sure. I'm definitely 100% a racer. Like that's what I want to do. Like I would rather be out riding for hours than be on my phone, you know, or think about taking a video like or photo while I'm out riding. Like for me, it's just like all about being in the moment, riding hard, like racing as fast as I can, no distractions, just performance. And I think it's been like it's taken just like realizing, oh, people want to hear your story, you know, people want to see what you're doing, and you can work with really cool brands and, you know, be involved with other people in the sport and build community through it. But I think it's for me just like finding out how I enjoy doing it, you know, because it takes time on the back end. It's not just like the fun posts and like commenting and chatting with people. It's like, okay, now I'm going to stop, take out my phone, take a video, do something that people want to see, you know, and that doesn't come super naturally to me. So it's just working on it and learning what's fun and enjoyable. But for sure, I think it's a part of our sport now. And it's important for, you know, a number of ways, you know, from partnerships to just like growing your name in the sport and opportunities. But yeah, it's hard. It's also super cool. And I think it's for me finding, what parts of it I enjoy and how I want to invest my time in doing that for sure. But I think you're right. Like it is cool because I think it's also opened a whole realm of cycling for people that literally can tell stories through riding their bike or through social media, through podcasts, whatever that might be. And I think it's great for our sport. And I think for, you know, for example, cyclists that have podcasts that have other more performance athletes on their podcast, I think that can help, you know, And I think it helps them tell their stories and that kind of thing. So yeah.
Here we have it. You're looking at three
You're
people
looking
trying to
at-
have a high performance athlete to tell their story.
I'm a high
Yeah.
performance
Yeah,
athlete,
And we're
so
trying to high performance ourselves, trying to make this work.
Yeah, exactly.
I would have done the
So you
step
just
up. I
have to have
promise.
the creative vision, you know,
Absolutely.
and not everybody has that. Yeah.
Hi, you guys. I started a podcast.
Another white male starting a
Oh
podcast.
my gosh! Keep holding your mic for the rest of the podcast. We'll get you a stand maybe in a few years when we get a
Well,
sponsor.
I've got the stand. I just don't have the right table. We're doing this at the house right now.
Budget
Well,
cuts.
yeah. So, kind of going back to where was I going to ask with regards to that social media? Do you think that if you were to concentrate a wee bit more on like building yourself as a brand on the social media front, mentally, do you think that that'll take you away from training to be the fastest possible racer that you could be?
I do make jokes that I do think that social media is a performance enhancement. Because I think that like if you think about like a really okay, I'll just use me for example. I spend a lot of time meditating, like focus and aware and like all these things. And I think what social media trains is it's like full on a distraction. Like you just want to look again, your phone in general. So it's like being able to train like that self-control and like to be in the moment. Like we have to race for an hour and a half. And you want to be like so in the moment of like, how am I breathing? How does my body feel? Like, what are the tactics? Like, you're fully present for an hour and a half. And I'm constantly trying to train that just like through meditation or through whatever that practice might be. And I do think that like, if you're training those neural pathways or whatever to instantly need a distraction or to like move away from the task at hand, I think social media does lend to that a little bit. And I think it also, can be a distraction from like what you're doing as an athlete for your performance, because there's a lot of like what other people are doing, small Snapchat, like, you know, just a quick view, and you don't see the whole picture. And it's really easy. Oh, they're doing this. Oh, they're doing this race. Oh, should I be doing that? Should I be doing this? And I think it's really important, especially for young athletes. And Strava is also a great example of this, because it's also like a social media platform in a way where you see, you know, elite athletes doing big rides, lots of training, but you don't get the whole picture of like what their easy rides look like, or, you know, all, you know, how they've planned it out or built up year after year to even get to that 5-hour ride. And I see a lot of young athletes falling to that a little bit, where I think, you know, overtraining or overdoing it at a young age can definitely happen. So yeah, I do think that there are times where it can be a distraction for performance. And I think it's just being aware of what those might be and then controlling it and then just managing it as best as you can. Because like I said, I do think it's part of our sport. I think it's important for growing our sport, for sharing a story or anything like that. And for getting young girls or whatever that might be involved in our sport. But I do think there's a line for sure. And I think it's just being aware of what makes you tick and perform at a high level and how you need to manage that.
Was there someone that race that motivated you to ride, or like what was kind of like your motivator to get to this level or like look up to?
Yeah. Oh, that's a great question. I think like my family, we always like mountain biking was just part of my life from a young age. Like, you know, we'd go camping with all our friends in Moab and go rip around with all my peers and friends. And it just kind of became something where we had an incredible like local race series in Utah. And it's like we were racing, I think, like every Wednesday night and every weekend, you know, it's
Oh,
like you would
really?
just show up with your friends and go racing. And so it just became something that I think I loved. And I think when you're good at something and you're thriving and you're having a good time and you're always progressing and learning new things, it's kind of addicting. And then from there, I think I remember I went to Sun Valley, Idaho for my first national championships, or my second maybe, and I won like a little jersey in 13, 14. And that year they actually had let's see, it must have been London Olympic Games, like 2012, I think. And at nationals they like announced the whole Olympic team that I'd made the team that year. So it was Todd Wells, Leah Davison, Georgia Gould, and then Sam Schultz, and they like brought them to the stage and they're like, this is our Olympic team for London 2012. And I was like, oh my God, this is an Olympic sport. And I was always the kid, like Olympics was on, I wanted to watch, like I thought it was the coolest thing ever. So then I was like, whoa. And so I'm pretty sure I was like 13 but I was like, I want to do this and I want to be an Olympian. And so it's kind
That's
of
so
been
sick.
just like, I think once you have that vision, it's literally been people are like, how are you motivated? Like all this stuff. It's like, well, I knew what I wanted at a pretty young age, and it's just been like slowly progressing year after year. And it's just been so fun. Like it's the best sport ever too. I get to travel to these amazing places. I get to ride outside all day long. So it's really just been something I've absolutely loved. And yeah.
Wow, because I know that Utah has the biggest NICA league as well, so that's why I kind of asked a little bit of that NICA thing. Kind of wild that there's.
Yeah.
I didn't know that there was this many races going on there, like during the weekdays and everything like that, and it's quite interesting. Like for me, I see the Olympics as this weird, like it's insane. Like you can go to it, you're so badass and this and that, but like the athletes don't get paid anything for it, but you're representing. It's a weird area, right? Like I don't know how to explain that. What is that feeling like to you? Like maybe when you did find out that there wasn't as much money to go to the Olympics or whatever it is, right? Like, but you want to go, it's your goal, right? Like, where does that put you?
Yeah. I think, I mean, in our sport, it's definitely unique because I think for definitely as an American athlete, and I think maybe not our sport as much compared to like swimming or, all these like big track and field events, but for sure, if you're like an Olympic champion, I think it changes or if you're an Olympic medalist, I think it definitely changes like your life a little bit for sure. And especially as an American, for sure. It's like Team USA, if you win gold, like that's that's a big deal in the US, So I think it definitely can change things for sure. But I think that I definitely wouldn't be in this sport if it was all for the money, It's still cross country.
None of us would be sat here. That was a dumb question, Austin.
Stop
I don't believe in any dumb questions.
It kind of hurts
about money.
That I mean, I feel like it's such a prestigious high thing that
Incredible.
It is like how many people would you say that there is that have it, could say that they've won the Olympics, but yet like you also have to live and buy a house and buy food for yourself, right? So it's like, where do you put your priority list of what do you do for that, right? That's what I'm kind of saying.
Kind of, but as she just said, she races bicycles. It's not exactly. Not exactly.
Yeah,
I get it. I get it. I'm just saying it's. I wish that there was more money for the ones that win the Olympics.
Has there ever been a mountain biker on the Weedos box? What's it called? The Wheaties box or the what is that?
Think so. Yeah.
I don't know. There's definitely
it's a
dirt
Wheaties
biker.
box. I don't know what you're talking about.
Has there been a dirt biker?
Yeah, Ryan
I've
Benji was on it for sure.
I knew an athlete was offered it before. I won't tell their story for them, but they were offered a spot, but one of their sponsors denied it actually.
Sponsored by a competing cereal brand, or like how does that work?
It's got to be a parent company.
It was a conflict for sure. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Can you say what the sponsor was that didn't like it?
No, I think that would give a lot away.
Okay.
Gotcha. All right.
Cliff Bar?
Really?
Cliff.
Okay. Well,
when we lose you here in about 5 minutes, we're gonna try to tap into who this really is. So, thanks for that info. Great. Cool. So
that's all I got. So.
Oh, come on. All right. So we have you for about, I know you have a hard stop here going with us. We have you about for like 5 more minutes and stuff like that. I wanted to tap in, I noticed that like it's kind of similar question that we had or Blevins was maybe not a question, but it was like what Blevins was telling us that he is gearing up and not doing like a Cape Epic and things like that is because he's going for the Olympics next season. Is that a similar thing for you? Is that why we didn't see you? Because I know that you won it. It was 2022, I believe. And so that's why we didn't see you there this year.
Yeah. The Cape Epic is legit. It looks really cool from the outside, and it is really cool as a racer. Like I would go back for sure. But it's insane. I don't know if you guys are on like Training Peaks or anything. Do you know like TSS scores or anything like that?
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah. So for me, it was like every single day was over 300 TSS and one day was almost 400 TSS. And that's for 8 days. So it was legit. And you're mountain biking, it's technical terrain. Like it can be super hot or, Chris raced a year where it was like pouring rain. They were like riding through rivers. So it takes a toll on the body. And that's what happened to me in 2022 actually. Like I had a really hard time like returning back to World Cup race speed. It took me a long time to get back there, and luckily like it slowly built up like throughout the season. But in the first, like we raced actually in Brazil right after the Cape Epic, and we had the short track races before the cross country. It was like the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, because I've been
exact
racing,
opposite.
for 3+ hours,
Yeah.
for 8 days, and it was so hard. And I think like the fitness boost from it is for sure a thing. Like Nino does it every year. Sophia, the teammate that I raced with at the Cape Epic, she's racing Lifetime now, and she absolutely uses it as like a key part of her training for the season. So that definitely happened. Like I had one of my best results, like some of my best results that year. But I think it's just how you manage it, and it's also such an unknown. Like you don't know how long the stages will be, how hot it will be. So it's a very uncontrolled training camp, and I think you can replicate a lot of that in training without having to go to South Africa and like race through the mountains like for hours on end. So it is epic, and I suggest like anybody that can do it should definitely go and try it out, because it's an incredible event to partake in for sure. But it is no joke, so train well and prepare.
Survive.
It's hard.
Yeah, no, I've heard of some top athletes that have gone to it and then just basically had to drop out because you are wrecked by those last couple of days. It's brutal.
Yep.
Yeah,
and you can get sick too. There's so much going on. Yeah, it's the full adventure for sure. It is epic.
Cape Epic, there we go. Nice.
I love it.
Anyone else want to fire one off before we lose her?
I mean, I feel like I got a lot of questions.
I know.
but
Can we have you back on like later in the season? There we go.
Absolutely. It's so fun chatting. You guys asked good questions, actually. You threw me some curveballs. That was awesome. So
but also the note should, I think I got 2. Oh, those are good questions. And I get balloons. And Austin only got 1. Oh, that's a good question. So I'm just.
Man. Just hey,
That's
look, I brought up the step up. We will always remember that forever.
Yeah.
But
maybe next year I'll be throwing whips or something, so then it'll be even better.
Go.
Yeah.
That's one of your coaching segments.
Yeah, seriously.
Cool.
Well, Haley, thank you so much for giving us
yeah.
your time. That was amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. It was great to chat with you all, and hopefully we chat again. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I would love to have you on later in the season for sure. Yeah. Let's get in some deeper dives for sure. I like it. Cool.
Let's have more time.
Don't close your window browser after you leave. We cannot lose this recording. Yes.
But
sounds good.
But Haley's allowed to hit leave like the red button, right?
Yes.
But you just can't then close your browser.
Yeah, don't close your window.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Save the content.
Sorry.
Thank you so much, Haley.
Thanks, James. Thank
Congratulations.
You. Have a good one.
See you soon.
Yeah.
Thank you. Ciao.
Man, we held it together.
We did.
Oh, I mean, kind of.
Those are 2 badasses, right? What do you mean kind of bullshit? But those are 2 badasses.
Jamesy, you switched rooms in the middle of this podcast, lost your mic stand, and drank multiple beers. Yes,
I'm still on my only 1 beer. I got it's a school night.
I'm amazed. I'm amazed.
But I didn't. I just switched from one side of the room to the other. The light was better. I was gonna fidget with that the whole time. It was best. I know it was distracting, and I apologize, but it was best. It was pulling the Band-Aid off.
Just like,
for a minute, I thought the cookies were kicking in or something.
Always.
Wow.
Always.
Wow.
Yeah, that was great, man.
Yeah, that was crazy.
I feel like all of these guys that we've talked to just for all of our podcasts, we could talk to for so much longer. And that's pretty cool, man. We have so many cool opportunities to talk to genuinely rad humans that have so much going on and so much going for themselves. And it's pretty fun, man. It's pretty entertaining and pretty, I think, inspiring for me as a rider, as a creative, whatever. Like, it's cool listening to people's stories and why they do what they do, and just be involved in seeing how passionate they truly are about these things. And I feel like if that was anything that I got from this is obviously Ty's great too, but Haley and Christopher are like so passionate about what they're doing, and I think that's pretty apparent.
I really feel like I suck on a bike now, knowing that Blevins can beat me with 1 ear.
Hey, I mean,
come on.
That's a weird one, Austin. I'm sorry.
I am blown away though that he could only hear out of 1 ear.
Ashley Feilich was deaf, and she could probably still beat you. on a dirt bike.
No, she
Crawford
couldn't.
Katrick
I was-
Anderson, one of the best
that
down.
hurts.
Yeah,
That hurts. That
Yeah,
hurts.
yeah, this
no, I think that was, it's pretty mind-boggling, and I think that with like the level that they work at and stuff, and the way that their training is, that's what's really interesting to me, and what causes them distractions, like talking with Haley with regards to like, hey, if you need to build your brand on the social media level and all that kind of etc., then is that going to be distracting, and how does that? Because I feel like it would. Bloody hell, like when I'm in the, like when I was shooting full time, it was just like once I was in the photography season or whatever, for me, I didn't want to be distracted by social media. I didn't want to open it up and look at where's XYZ photographer or who's doing what or what project somebody else has. Like I didn't want that distraction. I just wanted to focus on these are my clients, these are my jobs.
That's why that's why they kicked you off for a while.
That was it. I was just so intense.
That was what it was.
But
I mean, it is also crazy too to see how much the XC racer has changed, right? Yeah. Like you were saying with the road, a roadie could kind of come over and dominate in that. Now they need enduro downhill like skills, right? Yeah. Like Jamesy was touching on that pretty good. Like she's literally taking part of her days to train for, riding that type of stuff instead of just pounding miles.
Yeah, and it's even more impressive when people like Tom Pidcock and Matthew Vanderpool come over and are full roadies and cyclocross guys and win. I mean, they're all of them. I mean, they have to be so well rounded, and they're pinnacle athletes, man. It's incredible.
Yeah.
And but that was super fun.
I love that the one comment when you guys were saying about the ripped jeans and or Ty was saying about that for like the one weekend races, and I was like, that's fucking Jamesy right there,
Get
with
the fuck out of here.
I've seen you with ripped jeans and just fucking murdering professional enduro racers up the hill. You were just like, no.
They were full length jeans though. It wasn't like they were jean shorts and the crotch was blown out, much like the majority of my pants. I've got thunder thighs. And when I jump on a bike, they just like, Anywho, no, I can't remember where I was going with this. I was just defending myself on my thunder thighs.
Can we go into some current events? Because I want to talk about some of that stuff.
Oh gosh, should we talk about Crankworx or what?
Just a little bit. Yeah, I definitely.
Sure. Yeah, Crankworx. Jamesy, what do you know about it? Anything?
I don't know anything more than you guys.
Just
crazy though, right? First off,
it's pretty wild.
First off, we got to give the flowers to the people that deserve them. The chicks, that's badass, dude. I'm so happy and so like it's pretty absolutely insane that.
And just can we maybe explain it a little bit, right?
The progression of women's slopestyle is here. It's real. This Crankworx is it's the first FIMB or whatever it's called, gold level event.
I think it was it diamond level?
Diamond, I don't know, whatever the highest one is. Sure. I don't know. Anyways,
I think it was a diamond, but
Crankworx has women's slopestyle and they were sending it and it was pretty sick. And I think that was about the best thing that happened to Crankworx because some bad things kind of didn't also, or bad things went down. The guys decided, hey, as they're already there, we're not going to drop our runs because we need more money. We need this to be more organized. We need weather guarantees. We need food or whatever accommodations paid for, and they put their foot down and they didn't ride.
And then the women stepped up and
exactly. And honestly, if anything came out of that, I think that the coolest part of all of that is that it put all of the light. I mean, it kind of took a little bit away, the guys stepping away, but yeah, I think it was cool to give the women their stage and allow them to show off what they got going on.
Yeah. No, I don't think it's a case of them like stepping up like they weren't going to already, even if the dudes rode. I think it was super sick. It was really fun to watch.
They could have easily said, hey, I don't want to do it as well, right?
Yeah, and I think that there's a fair amount of stuff like behind the curtain that we don't know all the details on with regards to those conversations and how long the conversations have been going on with between the athletes and organizers and stuff like that. And I do think that it was sick to still have it was an awesome event, and watching the women ride the course and everything. Just going back to Caroline's the Superman seat grab, I believe it was. Yeah, that was fucking dope to see. And then obviously Robin, like just like everything, and all the riders, and even the stuff that we were seeing from the dudes before they decided to step back. I think that it's always a really fun event, and it's going to be interesting to see how Crankworx kind of works with this and talks with the athletes, the male athletes, for the next one. And because I don't know, like, again, we don't know all the details, but I just can't. Yeah, there's a lot of things that I think that the athletes are asking for that are very reasonable. And I know that when it comes down to the organizers, it's definitely a big stage. It's a big opportunity. It's a big opportunity for a lot of the sponsors. You got to remember some of the sponsors, like SRAM, for example, they've got their logo all over that bloody place. And then they've got athletes, Emil. Yeah, and so Eric, I think, is still on SRAM, and so in SRAM RockShox. So it's like, well, how does a company like that handle that? Like, okay, well, this was going to be a huge amount of airtime. However, is the airtime just like, we have to drop at this time because this is when it goes live and this is when we can get the most amount of dollars and this, and this? Or do you work around the weather schedule, the wind coming in, that kind of stuff, and say, okay, let's run it earlier or whatever, or later in the day, whatever it may be, and then work with, all right, it's not going to be live when we said it was going to be live. It's going to be live a different time, and people can record it because we live in this day and age. I know that, like, I'm going off on the tangent and everything.
It is true, but I mean, what about it's the spectators that are driving up and seeing
difficult.
it too?
Yeah,
there's a lot of juggling going on there.
Yeah, absolutely, and that definitely sucks for sure. I mean,
could you imagine driving 4 hours away and you show up and they're like, oh, the weather was good at 8 a.m. so they just decided to drop at 8 a.m. and you're like,
yeah,
what?
Yeah,
this thing said 6 p.m. the whole time. Like, I was a couple hours early. Like,
yeah, no, and there's definitely a lot, like, and it does go back to, like, going back to the conversations about XC. It's like, I feel like a big thing to get more people racing XC is more having the spectator friendly, the introducing people to the sport, and then also having things at the race for spectators to do that's outside of just standing on the course and watching, you know. And absolutely, spectators definitely drive a lot of this industry. People want to go out and watch their favorite riders race or compete in slopestyle competitions, and those are the people that are buying the bikes and are buying the stuff. So it is a juggling act for sure, but I feel like, me personally, and again, I'll always say I don't know my ass from my elbow, but I feel like the riders definitely had some really good points, and I'm sure the organizers also had some really good counterpoints as well. I know I've been out. Go ahead, sorry.
Why would you, like, I guess the question is why would you get on that plane?
I know
if they didn't have that figured out.
I mean, like, well, look at it in
them though, like, hey, we're gonna get this figured out when you get here.
Well, no, because these conversations have been going on for multiple years.
Yeah.
So it is a case of them, like, the athletes still going to these things, and maybe again, I don't know anything about this, but maybe it just got to a point where they were like, okay, this is the last step. This is how we can really show Crankworx we mean business about these things that we need, these additional things that we need as athletes to go out there.
But then do you just give your sponsor that just paid $7,000 to get you down there, just give them the old bird, or what's going on?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Like,
from a sponsor's point of view, I feel like it's kind of, there are going to, it's a tough one, don't get me wrong, but I feel like it's more of a case of, like, the way, okay, so let's just take, and I know that we shouldn't go by anything on this, but like Pink Bike comments, it's a gauge, right? Yep. And the amount of athletes, there's definitely the people, and I couldn't be asked going through all of them, but the highlights that I kind of picked out were, there was a lot of like, okay, this is support. There was a lot of people that seemed like athletes that were in the comments, as far as, like, not astroturfing, but like as far as like athletes from outside this 16 or group of 15 or 16 that stepped back. But they're in the comments like, this is a part of it. Like, and Spencer, you're an athlete, you know, like how it comes down to the dollars, how you can get to races. Yeah. But I feel like I'm kind of rambling on this, but what the point I'm trying to get to is that I feel like this is a good opportunity for a sponsor to say, I stand behind my athlete in this scenario. They do perform at this level. And I think from a marketing point of view, that is kind of the best avenue for a sponsor to kind of go. And you're right. Yeah, the athlete does have it in their contract to appear at XYZ competitions each year. They need to do XYZ content or whatever their contract may say. But I do think that this is one of those kind of out of the box kind of situations where a sponsor can be supportive of the athletes and say, yeah, this kind of fucking sucks right now, but you guys stood up for yourselves.
Contradictory to like what you just said, like this, like if
probably
SRAM is being mad at Crankworx because
no, I didn't.
Okay
I definitely
athletes saying that. That's
no. I was saying no. I don't. I think that SRAM is in this tough position because they're one of the title sponsors of Crankworx, and then they also have athletes. Like SRAM, to my knowledge, has not given any kind of indication on where they are with anything with regards to this. So I'm just using them as an example because their logo's everywhere. And they also have the top athletes, or some of the top athletes.
Everyone's in a weird fucking place on that.
It's a weird place, but I feel like go back to the Rampage when all the guys at Rampage were like, we're not going to do this unless we get I don't ever want to call them demands, but unless we get what we're asking for from the like appearance fees, travel fees, money to pay their builders to be out there for 2 weeks.
Do you have to pay at Crankworx and Slopestyle? What is the entry fee? Do you actually have to pay that, or like because I feel like there's only
I don't know.
Of them, right?
I don't know.
I don't know what the entry fee is, but they do have an entry.
Oh, they do 100%. Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. How much is it to win? Because they bumped. It said like 30,000, right? No, I think they bumped it up to 30 grand.
I think 30 for the series.
Across.
Yeah.
Is that
maybe
what
maybe it's 15 maybe it's I think it's 10 to win, 5 second, 2 third or something like that, and split evenly across men and women.
Yeah. It's so for people that are we've kind of rambled on there for a second, we kind of missed it. This weekend, Crankworx, which is a large series, probably the largest for Slopestyle, you would say, right? And Pump Track and all the other ones kind of in a circle. The men in the Slopestyle decided not to do their session, which I would say Slopestyle, personally for me, I don't really care as much about Slopestyle, but it's the largest event. It's the biggest
event of Crankworx for sure.
It's the biggest event at Crankworx, and the riders, which the men's side decided not to go and race because they were feeling unappreciated, basically, right? Like obviously taken advantage of. I mean, and I will say some of that whole entire course every year at each one of those is fucking insane. And when you crash, you fucking crash. You know,
what do they say? There's no circus without the clowns.
Yep. And the clowns grouped together on this one, right?
Yeah. There's a riders union, basically. Anyways, yeah. Just super interesting. I wanted to hear your guys' thoughts on that.
I think it's a little, I mean, I don't know. This is a little bit off record, but from my understanding, like those European ones, Crankworx spent a shit ton of money. There's a reason why they didn't go back to Leger after doing some of those to get these events started over there. And I don't know if they're quite turning the profit that Whistler does. That might be in return of why the payout isn't as big at those rounds or however it works out. I don't fully know the logistics of it, but yeah.
It goes back to the topic kind of with Ty, to be totally honest. The race promoter getting kind of the short end of the stick. Sure, obviously those guys are all making a living and stuff, but I don't think it's as big as Brandon Semenuk's salary or something, you know, like honestly.
I bet you Brandon Semenuk
half of those riders
more than the guy.
I know. I'm just
half of those guys.
James. I'm just using it as an example.
No.
I understand.
But,
half of those guys
they're not
don't
making
make,
them
don't make
a living. Yeah, for
I
sure.
I understand that. Yeah. But I don't know. I'm just trying to see both sides of the coin here.
Yeah, we're just merely talking about it. Yeah.
But I'm not on either side of the fence per se. You look really perplexed, James.
Oh no! I've got because I'm not like I don't have like all my monitors.
He's
and
gonna read
stuff.
some of the. He's the exact reading the pink bike comments.
No,
right
it
now.
wasn't that. I was trying to see if I could figure out. I think I figured out that if you get overall like all the stops, so King and Queen of Crankworx, you get $20,000 altogether for all 4 stop. Oh, like
that's like the series. The series.
How much is it per round? I remember
that's what I was looking at.
The thing that I watched on YouTube showed that they said they kicked it up another $10,000 this year. I don't know exactly where that went. Was that per round? The whole overall?
Yeah,
I
don't know.
I think per round, but in order to win King of Crankworx, you have to do more than just or Queen of Crankworx. You have to do
more than Slopestyle.
Yeah, you have to do.
Oh
track.
yeah,
you have
absolutely.
To do dual slaloms, dual speed.
Oh,
style.
so that 10 wasn't just towards the Slopestyle thing.
No.
I think that 10 you're talking about is just for Slopestyle. They were trying to trying to meet some of the needs that they were asking. I don't know. I know those guys. I know the Crankworx guys, and in their little press release thing or press whatever, you know what I'm talking about? The little video they released, press conference. Darren did not look happy in that seat. That was not a fun conversation to.
I can't imagine.
Your headliner, like it's like, hey, your headliner is not gonna go. You know, Lil Wayne just got fucking is out. Lil Wayne's out, and you're like, well, then I want my fucking money back. You know,
you got is Lil Durk, so not.
It was Lil Durk, but all right, let's do it. I have no idea. Yeah, definitely awkward, weird situation that went down there. Yeah,
I don't know. It's just it's something. It's another thing for us to talk about. It's another thing for the press to talk about and stuff. And I think that there's gonna, like Spencer saying, there's both sides to the story and everything like that. And we definitely don't have much of the information.
We're just talking.
I think it's fun to speculate with it. But no, I hope that it gets worked out because like you guys know, when you go to Crankworx and Whistler, the crowd that's there for Slopestyle is unreal. Second to none. There's not that many people on the downhill course. There's not that many people up at pump track or dual slalom, which bums me out. Like I love all those events, but Slopestyle is the one that brings a lot of people out there.
There's not that many people at a supercross race. It's incredible.
What did they say? It's like 80. It's like honestly, the only way I could compare it to anything in motocross is like going to Motocross to Nations.
Yeah, straight up.
It's the only similarity I would say that it has. Yeah, it's pretty unreal. Like, and I literally go and watch it from like the pizza shop on the TV when I'm there. I'm at the event, but I go to like the pizza shop and watch it with people.
Oh yeah,
because it's a cheaper
coverage
beer.
Is
I can
way
get
better.
food and I could sit there and watch every single piece of it. Right? You know. It's the same way I watch Supercross too, okay? From my couch, getting cheaper beer and pizza.
You're speaking James's language right now.
Yeah, that's right.
What are you talking about? I've been riding my bike every day recently. Privateer bikes, they're the way forward.
Wow. Just talking about beer.
Shameless plug right there.
Oh, no, I'll definitely drink some beer too.
No.
One other thing, the final thing I have is poor Jackson Goldstone. He just announced he's out for indefinitely until he can get back on the bike. Went through ACL, MCL reconstruction.
You see who else just did their knee in too this weekend?
No,
at Tennessee National?
Go on.
And
there we go.
Killed the really fast kid on Frameworks.
I think
Durango.
I thought Asa was a hip thing.
Was it a hip thing?
But
I thought he did his knee.
And maybe also, I feel like I read something about a hip, but I do remember reading something about another one of the super duper fast kids. Like, I love that people are going to be tuning into this podcast to get all the information on mountain biking. You got 3 hosts that are like, oh, dude, no, I don't think that was right. Maybe that was right. I'm not sure. Let me see. I don't know how
he fractured his lilac crest on his right hip yesterday. Pretty straightforward injury. No need for surgery. 8 to 12 week recovery time. We're told at UT Medical.
Did you see?
That was from.
Did you see the story of him eating glazed donuts and Skittles and burritos?
I mean,
and playing Fortnite afterwards. I mean,
no, I didn't see that, but hell yeah.
Yeah,
I'm looking at it right now, dude. He's like a 15-year-old kid.
He's just living it, and I think that's what that statement that you were reading said. It was like he's got a lot of years ahead of him, so
eat all the Skittles you can.
Yeah, no, big fan of that kid for sure. Super nice lad.
I mean, we're kind of losing some top little downhill legends right here. Not legends. Sorry, not legends.
He's new.
He's
He's
yeah.
got plenty of time. And then
Yeah.
who was the lad? There was somebody else, like I know what you're talking about, that did another knee surgery.
Really?
Yeah, and it oh man, I feel bad that I can't even remember that. So on one of my
Oh, you just gave me shit.
yeah,
for
that's
not
what I
remembering?
was giving
And
all of
then-
us shit. I was talking about all of us
It's
being bad at
all of
this.
us now. Okay.
No, I did. I said 3 hosts that don't know their asses from their elbows.
I'm
Hang on a
amazed that
second.
you're just holding this mic. We're at 2 hours and 38 minutes. Like, how's
I
your
got
elbow?
I got way
You're
too
gonna need
distracted
elbow
by
surgery after
messing with
this.
it.
Yeah.
No. Either way.
All right. If you
this-
don't have it in the next 5 seconds, we're moving.
No,
on.
I definitely don't. I'm on vitalmtb.com.
All right, you guys. Anything else we should dig into that we missed on this one? I feel like these are pretty much the hot topics. We had some of the fastest racers in the United States on XC bikes on. We talked XC racing. Jamesy moved multiple locations during this.
I'm just spreading my wings.
Spreading your wings. We'll figure out your light on that mic one day.
Hell of a pod, boys. Let's go.
No, that was good. Like I'm blown away that we had like that level of guests. All of our guests, like I know I shouted then, but all of our guests that we've had.
That's your
and
host.
we live streamed it for our first one.
That's your host.
Oh,
That's
I'm
the
sure
one.
that we have one. If one person's watching, it's because it's one of our computers.
We have 4. Anyways,
have
let's
5.
wrap this up.
Yeah. All right, you guys. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Jamesy for being our co-host. Same as Spencer Rathkamp being our co-host. You can get this on all of your podcast platforms. Watch us on YouTube as well, and we will be uploading onto Spotify, so you can watch it as a video or a podcast on there. Thank you all for tuning in, listening, downloading, subscribing, and follow us on Instagram at Insider MTB. Thank you all, and we'll see you for some other ones. Yeah, wind it down, boys. Thank you all. Later.
Bye-bye.